Okay, we are
This is on
live.
your channel, yeah?
Yeah, but I did in the title I did put your username.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, I mean my channel's views are crazy down right now. So I don't know how many people are gonna be here, but it's crazy.
Mine too, man.
Dude,
Mine too.
it is ridiculous the way that YouTube has been doing things.
Yeah, man. I'm noticing a lot of
Okay,
changes.
I'd like to address this first. It's because of Beauty Queen Tariq here. He's never on time for anything. So that's why we're
Don't do
late.
that. I was ready before you. You had to make your Pakistani tea and biscuit, soggy biscuit thing.
No, I'm the one who texted you. We should have
Yeah.
started at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
What time is it where you are?
10:30.
Hmm. We're in the same time zone, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should visit.
We'll do it. We'll set something up.
Yeah, you come to Seattle anyhow, so it wouldn't be that much
Mm.
change. It's pretty much the same city.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
All right, get this started, man. Come on, where's your presentation skills? You look
Um,
like you just rolled out of bed.
what? I did literally just roll out of bed.
You're not
It's.
supposed to admit that. That I meant that as an insult, as in you don't look ready, you look crusty, you look tired.
I'm
Come
sorry.
on, Siawish,
Let me
man.
put like eyeliner on or something. What am I supposed to do? I'm
I
just
don't know.
having tea.
Moisturizer. Okay, good. So
So,
introduce us. Come on.
okay. Hi, welcome to Al Muqaddima. My name is Siavish, and today I am here with Tariq from Hikmah History. You might know him as the runner-up of the Great Islamic YouTube Channels Award, which your boy is the winner, Alhamdulillah. Um, and other than that, Tariq is Afghan. I think that's all you need to know about that. He's also British, so that tells you a lot about him. He has a tendency to um, I don't want to say anything offensive, but yeah, you should probably share a link to this live stream on your channel.
It's not a bad idea. All
By
right.
the way, I recently faced a terrible betrayal by Tariq. It is a betrayal the likes of which has not been seen since the 18th century. No,
Whoa. What the hell?
no
I'm sitting on
Punjabi,
the edge of my seat thinking, what is this?
no Punjabi has been hurt like this um, since Abdali attacked Punjab, and
Where are you going with this?
that Tariq has a timeline of Islamic history in his background. He
Mm.
has not even plugged it. That is just sad.
Hey, see, I wish, what did I just say? Perspective is a hell of a thing in life, yeah? There's multiple ways of looking at the same thing. You can look at it the way you looked at it, but you can also look at it and see how much of a real OG Tariq is, because he's not doing this for money.
Hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But all jokes aside, I'm gonna edit it and put the link in now.
Of
So
course. No, I actually like that. Your video. First of all, the thumbnail thing was kind of cute. The you were make you had that kind of shocked face.
dude, the thumbnail is performing so bad. I have to every time I look at the CTR, I have to do a double check. Like, what the? It doesn't make any sense. It's below 1.7%.
Dude, the YouTube is terrible right now. For us, it's just doing pretty badly. Like by us, I mean like us niche historian kind of people. It's just terrible. I make a short on a topic, and it does much better than the long video does,
Mm.
which is really honestly terrible. Um, but yeah, YouTube is pretty bad right now. I don't know if it's if that's what's gonna happen from now on. That short content is the future, which really scares me because, dude, short content sucks for this kind of stuff.
It's just not enough length to
Hmm.
go into the depth that we want to go into.
Yeah, and you have to cut out a lot of things, and and people are gonna comment about what you've cut out. Oh, you didn't talk about this, bro. I wanted to, but it's only 3 minutes.
Hmm.
At most it's 3 minutes. That really sucks, and I really hope that's not the future. And also I feel like I doom scroll sometimes, and I cannot retain what I've watched. Like I have no idea what I've watched. I don't remember anything that I've watched. um
No, definitely not.
yeah, and I feel like our
Because that's
content.
the because that's the nature of doom scrolling. Like your mind is kind of on passive mode. See what I'm
Yeah,
saying? If it wasn't, then I could imagine shorts being quite an effective technique to retain information because it's bite size. But
yeah, definitely. But like for history or for bigger topics, there's a lot of nuance that has to be left out. And like the ideal way to deliver history is through an academic paper, but that's
mhm.
boring. So we sort of try to find a middle ground, making it entertaining and leaving out some of the complications, some of the nuance, and coming to some sort of a middle. And now here we are pretty much away from nuance. We just have to give the facts of the topic, and that's it.
Yeah,
um,
dude, a lot of people might be surprised to hear this, but even in my documentaries, my long format documentaries, 45 minutes and above, I often have to leave out huge chunks, not like a little bit. I have to leave out big pieces of information.
yeah, no, definitely. For me, I've decided not to make like longer videos. Instead, I've decided to break them into multiple ones, because at a time I cannot edit more than like 30 minutes of video.
Mm.
So, but the thing is, when you break them into parts, the first part might do well, but a lot of people are not going to see the other part, the second part.
Yeah,
um so it's overall, I don't know, man, I'm kind of burnt out on the whole thing. It's just because we like the work that we do and we're doing it. Otherwise, it's become a lot more difficult.
a lot more difficult. But one thing I would say, Siawish, and this is something that I'm definitely projecting here, but I'm not ashamed to do it, is don't make, don't fall in love with your predictions about the future. Like
Like,
just in general in life, but then in this regard specifically, just because short form content is the in right now, that doesn't mean it's always going to be the in. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
fingers crossed.
so inshallah for sure, but just kind of ride the waves, whatever's happening. Unfortunately, this current time that we are in, like you said, it's not very good for niche YouTubers like ourselves.
Have you
But that's sorry, gone.
watched? There's recently been a debate in Oxford, um, that between Tommy Robinson and some Muslim students. Have you seen that?
No, but I think I heard about it. I think I
That
heard about
is
it.
that, in my opinion, is everything that's wrong with the world of like academia right now.
No way. Why? It's
Wait,
the
does
one from 8 days ago, yeah?
yes.
THB, the West is right to be suspicious of Islam. Okay. Wait, first of all, why is it only 13 minutes long?
Those are clips. The whole debate is longer.
Oh, right,
Um,
right.
but so what they've done is they've turned this debate into reality TV, and that is what I really hate about the world right now. That everything is being made into reality TV, like YouTube, and even academia at large has become like this. Oxford debates, they used to be between these you know intellectual giants.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
even when there were no intellectual giants, um like these, at least they would have credible people arguing with students. And of course it was also about the students learning, but it was also about the debating and stuff like that. But now,
Mm.
like, Tommy Robinson is invited to Oxford to speak to students. That is Charlie Kirk level crap. And then it's
No, that's worse. What are you talking about? Charlie Kirk had a way with words, man. And Charlie Kirk, you
no,
might
but
disagree with a lot of what Charlie Kirk said, but Charlie Kirk, I don't even know if he was officially qualification wise, an educated man. But when he spoke, you could tell like the guy read, the guy thought, and everything. Tommy Robinson looks like he's coked out of his head 24/7. You can't
yeah,
compare the two.
Well, we'll come back to that some other day. But yeah, exactly. That these guys, they're not really, they're not really guys who should be at Oxford debating
Mm,
with students. Um, these are not guys who should be given like mainstream platforms. It's not they don't like Tommy Robinson does not even have the intellectual competence to do this kind of thing.
no.
And that's like my point that the debate took place at Oxford, and now they're slicing it into clips and they're uploading it, and there's like all this talk happening on Twitter. Um, and that's what's become of academia recently, I
Mm,
think. Reality
mm,
TV. You have Mehdi Hassan or somebody like that arguing with 20, 19-year olds. Um, and you have even a lot of YouTube channels, for example, I see that they're because bashing on Trump is and the conservatives is quite in right now, and it's easy.
mm, mm,
People do that. Like there's a conservative Wikipedia, and everybody's making videos about how crazy it is.
mhm.
It doesn't really matter because nobody who is not a conservative, who's not totally in Trump's camp, is actually going to go on to conservative pedia, whatever that is called.
Man.
But yeah, there's this sort of a reality
I don't
TVification.
have a. I definitely agree with you, but I was just gonna say I don't have a problem with that format. Um, but it's just the problem is if that's the only format to succeed, then obviously that's a really big problem. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But when you force people to have to do stuff like that, then that's where the issues are. I think we have some questions in the chat.
Yes. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Um,
Hmm.
why are Sunni nations willing to destroy the Shiite one more than to defend themselves from Israel? That's the news. It's for Iran, not Israel. Do you want to take?
Oh. Yeah, I'll take this. Let me see. Um, by the way, with this whole algorithmic change to YouTube, your
Yeah.
boy is far less encumbered by filters. So I might have to answer questions a lot more directly than before. Why are Sunni nations willing to destroy the Shiites more than to defend themselves from Israel? I think uh, it sounds quite harsh to even ask that question in the first place, but whoever asked this question is definitely not crazy. From what's happening on the ground, it does seem like this. My not rebuttal, but the way I would answer this is probably because a lot of Sunni nations, suffer from very weak leadership. Um, and we could sit here and talk about what that weak leadership looks like at hours, at length, I mean. But ultimately, it comes down to sovereignty. They don't have a full appreciation of the concept of sovereignty. And practically, what I mean by that is they're not puppets of an American or Zionist run world, but they're beholden to American slash Israeli policy. So don't think of it. Actually, I'm glad I said that because the only problem I have with your question is the nation part. It don't apply what the leadership is doing to the entire country. Yeah, I'm not. You might be able to go into a specific nation, let's say Saudi Arabia, and there might be huge chunks of their population which might agree with the leadership, but it's not the whole nation. It's the leadership. See what I'm
Mm.
saying? The leadership is
I,
beholden to Western powers. Go
I
on,
would
sir.
argue that nation and leadership are the same thing, that people do not constitute nation. That might be controversial, but there is no Saudi Arabian nation. Like, there's no
Mm,
Saudi Arabian people. There are Arabian people for sure. There are Hijazis. There are all these different kinds of people. But state is and leadership are, I think, the pretty much nation is another word for, I think, state. But okay, I'd like to add one thing here though. The Sunni nations that we're talking about here are Wahhabi slash Salafi to a large extent, and there's always been this thing within Muslims, within Christians, within everybody, where these sort of ultra puritanical sects, they see outsiders as more acceptable than their own heretical belief systems. Like this has happened before as well. You know, when the Shias and Sunnis were at war in the 10th century, and the Christians come along, Muslims often. The Shias allied with the Christians, the Sunnis allied with Christians, but nobody thought, okay, we're going to ally with the Shias and we're going to fight the Christians. That didn't really happen. So it's that's, I think, part of the problem as well here. But yeah, mainly it's just that the Sunnis are more in the U.S. Israel sphere right now. So that's unfortunately what it is. And as many
Yeah.
theological disagreements that I have with the Shias here, the Iranians here, I do think they're right on this, because you really cannot trust Israel. Israel is a rogue nation,
They're
and
absolutely right on this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they, like the Qataris, they gave a plane to Trump with the hopes that Trump would help them, and then the Israelis bombed Qatar as well. So you cannot trust Israel with anything, really. It is a
Yeah.
rogue nation.
I don't know if I've said this before on a live stream, but honestly, of all the things that's happened in the last 2 years, that thing you just referenced when Israel, what did they do? They did an attack in Qatar, not on Qatar, but I think it was certain members of Hamas. I think that's
Yeah,
definitely in the top three most consequential thing that's happened in the last 2 or 3 years, because
definitely.
that was massive.
Yeah,
That was a really big deal.
definitely.
Well, a lot of these Sunni nations, I think, at the moment they're starting to find out the hard way, and kind of slowly. They should have figured this out a little earlier. That their protection cannot be guaranteed by
Yeah,
Israel or America.
by the
So
U.S., because Israel is a rogue nation. Is a rogue state. You cannot have.
Israel is a rogue nation, and America seems very compromised by this rogue
Yeah,
nation. And on top of that, America just doesn't really have a great track record from a humanitarian point of view in the rest of the world, especially in the Middle East. So these countries need to start deciding what they want to do for themselves. And the recent talks between Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia yesterday or the day before, I hope they are a step in the right direction, but who knows? That's yet to be determined.
yeah. The U.S. has, but there's some good news, which is that APAC has recently faced some defeats in the U.S., especially in like just a couple of days ago in Michigan, where they
Mhm.
spent like $80 million and their candidate still lost.
Yeah.
So Israel's
Did
popularity
you?
is in the toilet right now. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But did you see the one in? I always forget. I get the Midwest states jumbled up. The one with Thomas Massey, was that Kentucky or Tennessee?
that was Kentucky. Well, no, I
Kentucky,
think
right?
Indiana or Massey. I think Massey's from Kentucky.
He's not from Indiana. I know that.
I think that it's
I think it's Kentucky or Tennessee.
Republican Party. Yeah,
Um,
Kentucky's fourth congressional district.
so he lost that, and there
Yeah,
was a lot of APAC funding. I think the Zionist strategy, and I shouldn't even say think, because I'm pretty sure I've seen videos where they've openly said this. I think the Zionist strategy has changed radically, and very recently as well, in like the last 2 or 3 years, where they're stepping out of the shadows more, and they're going to be a lot more assertive with
yeah.
how they do things. You know, the purchase of TikTok is is
The
example of
the
that.
gloves are coming off.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we are seeing very, very clear and blatant racism from them, Islamophobia from them. You have people like, for example, just a couple of days ago, I think Ben Shapiro's company launched the trailer of a movie where it's being very clearly said that we don't like Muslims. Like they used to say, we don't like Islamists, which I think is pretty much synonymous with Muslims. But now they're pretty much clearly saying, oh, we don't like Muslims. Islam is going to dominate in all these things. So like the gloves are definitely coming off, and they've let go of any kind of mask of saying no, that well, no, our problem is Islamic terrorism or anything like that. It's
I don't think they have a choice. I think, especially with what's going on in or gone on in Gaza the last couple of years, with the whole
yeah,
genocide and everything, they can't just keep doing what they used to do because there's so much evidence. It's on video now, so the gloves have to come off.
yeah, yeah. But
It's, it's desperation.
I do think that in their desperation, they have, as the kids say, lost the plot. Um,
Mm,
their propaganda being so blunt is where they're losing the younger generations, and
definitely. But I
hopefully,
don't. As wild as it sounds, I think they've not forgotten. They just don't care about that anymore. I think what they are doing, and that's why I mentioned the purchase of TikTok, is they're gonna, instead of caring about public sentiment so much because they know that they probably can't win that battle, they're just going to buy big institutions, not just buy, but just make sure that they control. They have a greater control in society on an institutional level. You know,
yeah,
in terms of, I don't know, some of the social media companies that we see, in terms of even governments more directly being prejudiced towards anti-Israel sentiment or just anything. And you're definitely seeing that in both the UK and the US. You know, I saw recently Marco Rubio. What did he say? He said, if somebody criticizes Israel, then
yeah, the
we
visa
may
will be rejected.
visa. That's it. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's crazy. Like they don't even, and a lot of politicians are also doing the same thing where they're just openly saying that Israel is the hard line for me.
mm,
Fetterman from Pennsylvania said that recently, that Israel is the hard line. Like, bro, you've been elected by people from the U.S. If there
mm.
was like economic thing or abortion or something like that, like something that concerns the American people, you said that's a hard line for me, then I could understand. Okay, yeah, but
It's
Israel is
so
not.
obvious at this point and so cringy. Like,
Yeah,
why is Israel the hard line for you? What is Israel to you? Like you
yeah.
just nicely mentioned, what's Israel got to do with you?
You've been
It can
elected by.
only be, it can only be the fact that you've been bought. Like there's some financial gain for you to stand by Israel in such a hardline manner.
Yeah,
It's so obvious.
I mean, yeah, and it's obvious in that also we see like APAC tracker keeps posting things about, like, every time a politician opens his mouth, APAC
Mm,
tracker is posting, oh, you took this much money from APAC,
mm,
which I think is pretty good. Like that's the kind of journalism that's good, especially mainstream media does not care about like talking about these things, but it's great that this kind of general journalism is still happening.
mhm.
Do you see any question you want to take, or should I just choose the next one?
Definitely. Let's not do it in sequential order. There's one recently about Ceuta. The place in, I think it's the
Oh
most
yeah,
recent one.
what happened in Ceuta recently in
Yeah,
Spain?
I wanted to talk about this real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest before I talk about it. I haven't delved deep into it, so my information might be wrong. And if it is wrong, I hold my hands up, and I'm completely okay with it. Um, I don't think that thing is natural, man. I don't think it's natural.
It's happened before. I mean, Morocco let it happen before, so it's definitely not natural. Um,
No, no. Well, yeah, technically, if Morocco lets it happen, that
I think
also
that was
falls
in
into the whole natural.
2022 that it
What
happened.
was the numbers for that? Was it 60,000
20,000.
people?
That was 20,000.
Okay, this is 60,000, right?
This is like 50, 60,000, yeah, something like that.
56,000. No, when I say natural, I'm thinking, and maybe I'm just saying this because it's really convenient and it kind of falls into place. But there's probably some American slash Zionist role that was played in facilitating something like this, especially given Spain's track record of being critical of Israel in the last year or two. Also with America not letting them use their territories as part of their attacks on Iran, etc. I think there was.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised at all. My favorite money, if I was to bet, it would be on the fact that there was some heavy involvement from the Israelis and the Americans.
definitely. And the Moroccans have been trying to warm up to the US. Like they named, I think one of their highways has been named Donald Trump Highway or something, or was it a bridge? Um, and like they're trying to warm up to the US, and they're doing these kinds of things. So it's not something that's beyond the realm of possibility here. But also like it didn't ultimately do anything.
Hmm.
But it was shocking news for a couple of days. Oh no, Muslims are invading Europe. Even though Ceuta and Melilla, they are in Africa.
Hmm.
And um yeah, so like this whole thing was just shocking. It didn't ultimately do anything, and there are a lot of politicians that are in the EU now talking about it. Um and it's just yeah, it was just, I think almost certainly it was orchestrated by Morocco with the blessing of US and Israel, with support from US and
But
Israel.
that's a really big deal, man. And I know at this stage, or especially given what's happened, honestly, post COVID, countries are meddling in each other's affairs a lot more. But for you to be doing it in such a naked way, and for you to be doing it with somebody that's supposed to be part of your gang, part of your, uh, fraternity, that's a really big deal, man. You know what I mean?
I mean,
It's
there are
it's like
no,
another piece of evidence that the previous world order, which Henry Kissinger would refer to as the Westphalian order, is kind of, coming apart, fragmenting in front of our own
yeah,
eyes.
like there are no fraternities under Donald Trump. There's no alliances in the way that there used to be. Like the US and Europe used to be aligned, but with Donald Trump
Yeah.
only cares about somebody does personal favors to me. Dude, that guy is so blatantly corrupt. Did you hear that he's launching an API for his Truth Social, which lets
Mm.
people who pay like $100,000 a
Oh
month?
yeah, 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 yeah. Dude, you know what that is, right?
That how's that not insider trading?
That's insider trading.
How is
He's
that
selling
not?
signals.
It is
You know
crazy.
some of those like Instagram forex guys, online forex guys, where they have like a signals group where they
Yeah,
tell whoever signs up to it. That's literally what he's doing at the
yeah.
highest level.
It's crazy. It's crazy that government decisions are being sold to people with money for so blatantly and directly. The U.S. is, if we were doing stuff like that, they would bomb us and call us undemocratic and corrupt. This is
Hey,
what the
listen,
U.S.
I always wanna, especially Muslims or just anybody that has anti-American sentiment, I always want to caution them to think, oh yeah, the America's decline is not going to look so spectacular where it's like a Marvel movie where the bad guy dies at the end or whatever. But when stuff like this happens, the thing you mentioned, the $400 million jet that they got from Qatar, a
Yeah,
bunch of other weird things that are going on, is pretty good evidence that we are watching not the decline, the flipping demise, the like of an imperial power before our rise. For you to have such a lack of regard for law and order, forget about the morality of it for a second. I know morality is important, but for you to have such a disregard for law and order, for constitutional laws, for, I don't know, just an interest in transparency, makes me sound a bit naive, but just making things work, order, yeah. Um, it sounds like it's the end of an empire where everybody knows that the writing is on the wall
yeah,
and nobody wants to be left with nothing, so they just start looting their their own home. They're not
yeah,
looting outside of their home, they're looting their own home so that they can materially and individually, from a selfish point of view, benefit from it. It
yeah.
seems so obvious to me.
There's certainly that kind of a kind of a vibe going on, that things have become, and people have become so desensitized to this situation that
Mhm.
um, Donald Trump is doing this, and there's no problem with that. Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
dude
Nobody.
dude Trump sued the IRS.
Yeah, his own IRS. It's crazy.
He's he sued the American people,
Yeah,
in effect, because unless dollars go into the money supply in a way that I don't understand properly, I'm pretty sure the IRS are going to have to pay him out off the
yeah.
taxation money that
That's
they
where
get
the IRS
from
gets the
ordinary
money.
Americans. I hope somebody in the chat could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's insane. A leader suing his own people.
This is the kind of stuff that should topple governments.
A
It,
100%.
it's
Just
crazy.
that one act by itself should be enough. well, I don't know about a brand new order, but definitely a toppling of a government. And
Yeah,
then if we take the everything to do with Epstein into account, that should be enough to topple an order, not a government, an entire order. We need to start. Well, it's never good to start from scratch, but we need to make massive, massive adjustments to the way that we run our society.
yeah,
But
it's
so
crazy.
far,
It's crazy
nothing
that
has
these
really
things are happening.
happened.
Before Israel attacked Iran in February, Donald Trump's son bought stakes in a company that sells drones to Israel. Like
Yeah,
these
yeah,
are
yeah. I heard about that.
things that are happening in the U.S. right now.
Dude, did you see the Trump phone one?
Yeah,
Is the craziest one to me. No, no, no. The IRS suing is by definitionally the craziest one. You know about the Trump phone one, right?
yeah.
So Trump, I think through his son, the same one you were mentioning, Junior, Donald Trump
Donald Trump
Jr.
Jr.
or Eric, I don't know, one of them, whatever. He came up with a Trump phone where it's just a phone. I think it's just like a normal iPhone or something, and then it's just got designs of MAGA type stuff on the back of it. And he took money from people to put their name down, and he just kept delaying it, delaying it, delaying it, and now it's indefinitely on the shelf, and
Wow.
nobody has been refunded. That what do you think that is?
And you know what the phone is? The phone is some Chinese brand, like local brand, like not well-known brand, and it's just got Trump's name on it. They just put
Hmm.
Trump stickers on it. It is
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
He's selling coins. He's selling bitcoins, of course, like his own
Yeah.
Trump coin, and Melania has coins as well.
That little 6'8" son of his, who's like 12 years old. I read somewhere this could. I didn't read the full article or whatever. Apparently, when was it? I think it was just before the February attacks on Iran. He made apparently tens of millions of dollars on the stock market, cryptocurrencies, on something. Um, just like literally a couple of days before or at the start of the conflict, which one would have to assume there was some insider knowledge about what was going to happen.
It is crazy that these things are happening in the like in any country in the world that these things are happening, and this is the country that 20 years ago used to bomb countries to give them democracy and all that. This is it's
Yeah, but that
ridiculous.
was obvious. The problem with America doing this is the fact that America is a superpower. You,
Yeah,
you, you know what I mean? It's
and
like,
anybody can buy influence now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's crazy.
Again, which highlights the end of empire argument.
Yeah,
There's no meritocracy. All right.
if Israel really goes after Turkey, do you think they will be able to withstand the initial blow better than Iran, since they're NATO, have stronger military, is more united due to its nationalism? That is an interesting question. I am not an advocate for war, but I do want to see this because I'm sorry. It's morbid curiosity, but I want to see if NATO comes in, because Turkey is in NATO, and NATO is supposed to defend its
No way.
partners.
No way.
I'm
There's
really
no way.
curious what happened.
No. You know what would happen. I,
If
I, I am willing to bet, not a lot of money, a medium amount of money, medium to a lot of money, then NATO won't come in. What are you talking
if
about? Israel
NATO,
has a direct line. Israel has a direct line to the number one
yeah,
person in NATO. So
if that happens, it's gonna change Europe very drastically, because that's gonna be the end of NATO, and then Russia's gonna start making moves. It's gonna
no,
be
no, no,
like,
no, no. I don't think it would. You know why?
why is that?
Because it's obvious. Because Turkey's Muslim. Now, no, 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 no. Let me explain. I don't know how to say this properly without sounding a little uneducated or ignorant. But as I get older, one of the things I realize is, these broad, generalized statements, not in every context, but in a lot of contexts, they make sense. So what I mean by that in this regard is that, how Turkey has always been considered like the ugly duck within NATO, largely because culturally it is massively different to the other Christian nations that comprise NATO. I think that trope will rise to the surface the same way that it's risen to the surface beforehand. Turkey not being allowed into the EU, these really, really big tropes or themes that we encounter throughout history, like, for example, the clash of civilization, Islam versus Christianity. I get it. Certain people on the ideological spectrum use those for their own purpose, for their own kind of ideological slant, especially at the moment with so much anti-immigration sentiment in the West, etc. But people pay more attention. People respect Clash of Civilizations a lot more than it might seem. And in this scenario, I think the Clash of Civilization will arise. Europe will not see Turkey, even though they're part of NATO, Turkey's part of NATO, they will not see Turkey as NATO. They'll go, yeah, they were part of NATO, but they're Muslim. They're like brown Muslims. It's not the same. Did you see how Europe responded with Greenland? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah? That was very surprising. That was in the midst of Europe moving in a very unimpressive, dishonorable way around Donald Trump. But Europe stood firm. Because one of the reasons, it's not only because, I know life is not that simple, but one of the reasons is because Greenland is one of their own. It's Danish. It's white.
The thing is, the main thing that NATO does is it's not to like defend people, but rather just as a deterrent against others, to tell that we're gonna stand together. If somebody attacks us, we're gonna stand together. Everybody in NATO is gonna stand together.
Yeah,
If
Article 5.
let's say this whole thing happens, I think Germany would probably at least make statements. I don't think anybody has really the military capability to go into this situation like full-on NATO rebuttal to the whole thing. But it would completely undermine the existence of NATO. And that would bring us to a world where Europe needs to now stand on its own.
No, but we're already we're basically facing that reality without some official big event that's happened to announce that reality.
This would be that event.
But yeah, and it's good to have those events because they clarify things, especially throughout history. But they're not necessary. They're not necessary because
you know what happens after that, though.
Say it again.
You know what happens after that, though.
What happened?
When you have Germany building up a military, and they're going to need to build up a military. Once NATO is undermined, then they need to defend themselves. They need to have deterrence in place. And so I think what's going to happen is Germany, France, etc., their social state is going to go in the gutter because they're going to need that money to build up a military. And we're going to enter, it's going to be pretty much the end of the European Union as well, I think, to a large extent. Not in the way that they won't be united, but rather that the way that they have social states, they have welfare and stuff like that, healthcare, etc., they're going to be paying a lot of money into it. So it's gonna create a very, very new world order. Right now, about Greenland and the whole thing, if let's say Israel, if it doesn't fall apart, if NATO doesn't fall apart, once Donald Trump is out of office, there's hope for a reconciliation between Europe and the US, and things can go back to the way they were. But if this thing happens, then that's the end. And that would mean a very different world, I think. Once NATO falls, Europe has to build up its military. Russia starts making moves. Everything's up for grabs, like we've seen right now. Even the US's allies are not safe anymore. So it might be the event that would bring us into a Chinese-dominated world or something. But it would be a huge thing.
I think it would be big. I don't know about huge because number one, Europe doesn't have a choice. Europe has to stay with America until the end. Europe can't just abandon America, an American alliance, NATO, whatever, and go, oh, we're siding with the Chinese. It doesn't work that way. First of all, you're too close. Second of all, your economies are too intertwined. Third of all, your military defense sectors, I know Germany and a little bit of France, are working on, making that independent, the military industrial side of stuff. But for the most part, you're heavily dependent on America. The UK's nukes, they can't fire their nukes without certain codes given from America.
Yeah, but
Europe,
Europe
gone.
isn't walking away from America.
They
America's
will never
walking.
walk away from America. Yeah,
They would, but the other side is now. And so like now, if the Europeans have to find out that if one of them is attacked, the US will not
yeah,
join, then they have to do something else, and they'll have to start, like, they've started building up their digital infrastructure as well, so that
yeah.
they're not reliant on American companies anymore. So that would
What?
spell like Europe would have to go find new allies.
No, but that's my point. Is it can't find new allies. Like it can, but it's limited because of how. And you're right. I've read things, especially in the last year or two, with Trump imposing tariffs and seeming like he wants a divorce with the EU. European nations are starting to do things on their own as well, but they're too intertwined economically, militarily, etc., etc. They're not going to be able to have complete sovereignty, in the way that we understand it, where they go, oh, it's in my best interest for me to ally myself with Russia, so I'm going to ally myself with Russia. That's not going to happen. They are with America until the end. Even if America is drowning, they pretty much have no choice unless they're willing to just put in a couple of decades of hard work and have to pay the consequences of that. They're with America until America drowns,
Yeah, but
until America is
that's what
sinks.
I'm saying, that America is not with them though, and they're finding that out like the hard way, and so who knows what happens, but this would be like a very different world.
Yeah, but yeah,
I want to
maybe.
should we fear a Chinese dominated world as Muslims?
Uh, I would personally be more inclined to say no to this than yes, because just the historically, and if we take them at face value for what Chinese leadership seems to be saying nowadays and stuff, the Chinese model for being a superpower seems a little different to not just the American but the European. Flipping Europeans, they're crazy. They just want to dominate the whole world. The Chinese don't seem to want to dominate the world in the way that we understood the British and the Americans to have dominated them. They obviously seem to want to have economic concessions and economically have deals with countries that benefit them, etc., etc. But in terms of going into those societies and making them have certain political systems that they're comfortable with and that that native country might not be comfortable with, it doesn't seem like they'd want to replicate what the Americans have done since, I don't know, the end of World War II. So I'd like to think no, we shouldn't be fearing that. But also, by the way, I know this is not the question, but we should not be assuming it's a foregone conclusion that China is going to dominate the world. China's got a bunch of issues, man, and China needs America.
The great thing about China, by great I don't mean good, I mean like the big thing about China is that they are not a democracy, so they can do things that democracies can't do.
Yeah.
And so I think they would have an easier time dominating the world once the United States sort of fails. But I'm not saying it would, but once that happens, as Muslims, should we fear a Chinese dominated world? Yes, we should fear any dominated world. I am against hegemonies because hegemonies put us all at the risk of one country's whims. Like the US, elected Donald Trump, and now the whole world has to prepare for that. That I think is terrible. As far as the Uyghur genocide goes, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to. I don't tend to deny these things, but the evidence that I've seen so far, we have all seen that kind of thing before. We have seen the US telling us that Iraq has nuclear weapons, that the Iranians are massacring people, that the Iraqis are killing people in Qatar. We've seen all these things before. So I am at this point reluctant to accept their evidence because we have seen a lot of this before. Not saying that China cannot commit a genocide; they definitely can. Everybody can. But I feel like the event that at this point it is an accepted truth that they are doing that to the Uyghurs. I'm a little skeptical about that. As far as I know, there have been Uyghurs who have, I think, testified in Congress as well. That has happened before as well in Qatar. That happened. That also happened when Colin Powell sat in front of the UN with a vial of anthrax. Um, and like all these things, like the US's propaganda at this point, especially when it comes to, especially because of what we know about what they have told us about the Soviet Union, what they've told us about others. I'm skeptical to believe that at this point. I'm not saying that China cannot commit genocide; they definitely can. As far as I think that they would be in terms of dominance, like right now, they rely more on soft power and not like direct military influence, the way that the U.S. has in the 20th century. The U.S. deposed democratically elected governments, so that's something that has not happened under China so far. But we'll see. We'll definitely see how it goes.
Mhm.
Do you see any other comments you want to take?
Let me see. Du- 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 du. These guys seem to be having conversations of their own. I kind of like it.
Dude, what do you think about our countries that are at war?
Which countries?
Pakistan and Afghanistan.
They are, man. It's very sad to see. It's very
Yeah,
sad to see.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't fully understand it. My 2 cents. It doesn't mean much, but my 2 cents is America's basically telling Pakistan, like, hey, like, bomb these guys a little bit, please. Why? I think I know, but I still don't fully get like the full strategic picture.
I don't know. I feel like Pakistan might be doing this on its own this time.
But why?
That is like,
I mean, let me ask the question and answer it potentially on your behalf. The most obvious answer to why would Pakistan be attacking it is because the Taliban in Kabul have become fully independent, and they don't pay attention to what Islamabad tells them or thinks, etc. So they kind of just want to either bend them to their will or get rid of them. So whatever comes after them, even if it's just chaos and anarchy and civil war, they have a higher chance of controlling what goes on in their annoying neighbor, which is Afghanistan. That's the only way of thinking that would make sense from the Pakistani military establishment point of view.
really, I really don't think that Pakistanis are thinking that far. That deposing the Taliban need to go or something like that.
Dude, the Pakistani military establishment is legit. Don't just because Pakistan as a whole, as a country, is very unimpressive. That was a joke. The Pakistani military establishment, they're very impressive, man. They
Yeah,
are
but
competent of
I don't think
thinking.
that they're thinking that far to like depose, because the establishment is much more concerned with itself. It is not concerned with what happens in the region. I think the whole thing is just more to establish a
What are you talking about? The
local.
establishment, listen. The establishment in Pakistan for the past 50 years has felt the need to be intimately, as if it's like their own country, intimately involved in Afghanistan, and then pretty seriously involved in India. Those are the first two
How
that.
about in the past 10 years though?
What about in the past 10 years? Yeah.
In the past 10 years, things have changed internally a lot.
How?
Um, and
At what level? Like how?
the military's reputation within the country has changed. Again, this
Changed how?
you are saying that Pakistani military wants to dominate the region
Yeah.
by
What's wrong with
doing
that?
by neutering Afghanistan, I don't think that they're thinking that big. I think they're pretty much at this point what they're doing um, is that they're bombing Afghanistan first to curb the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan a little bit,
Mm.
and second just to like make
Show
some
people. Yeah,
waves,
what?
show people that we're doing something, and to tell Afghanistan to sort of back off from India. And like it's more to make waves than to do any kind of like real geopolitics within the region, because the military's reputation within Pakistan has gone sideways completely. And
Yeah.
at this point, they are, I don't think they're concerned with what happens in terms of the country's power, but
Hmm.
rather what happens to them within the country. How do the population of Pakistan perceive um, the nation? And somebody has said that Pakistani army doesn't make decisions for nation security. They're just greedy. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That they are only thinking about themselves. The reason they're bombing Afghanistan is to show the Pakistani people that we're doing something and we have a threat from across the border.
Hmm.
Basically, what they're telling people, so you need us, don't go against us. That's what it's doing. It's a much smaller game. I don't think Pakistan has had much interest in its region for the past 10 years other than defense, and because the military has been on the back foot for at least the past 10 years.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When you first made your point, it made no sense. But now that you've explained it, it makes a lot more sense to me. But what doesn't make sense is how you're making it out like the Pakistani military isn't as ambitious as I'm making it out to be. So then why are they the go-betweens, the middlemen between Iran and America? They hold in geopolitics at the moment, just at the moment, and this could change very quickly, they hold one of the most venerable positions in the world. It's something that global powers like the UK can't do, the Russians can't do. And I know that's contingent on the relationship with the two warring parties and whatnot, but regardless, it is a very admirable position that they hold in geopolitics at the moment. Why would they volunteer themselves for that if they weren't so ambitious geopolitically?
Because China and the United States can go through Pakistan. Like Pakistan has a friendly relationship with both China and with Pakistan. Other countries in the region have a good relationship with either one or the other. India has a good relationship with the US, very bad with China. Pakistan can serve as a go-between. And I personally think that the US and China reached out to Pakistan to mediate this, and to
Mhm.
bring an end to this. And Pakistan, that's why Pakistan is doing this. The military has no interest in improving Pakistan. They have no interest in making Pakistan safer. At this point, they are on the back foot against the Pakistani public. Like you're seeing a lot of things that are happening that are brutal and very desperate. Very openly, these things are happening. So the military is definitely on the back foot now. I don't think that Pakistan is interested in, like, if Pakistan was, as if somebody was thinking about Pakistan's
Wait, you
greater good.
think the Pakistani military is on the back foot? That doesn't. I mean, for the record, I'm ready to defer to any opinion you have on this subject matter because whatever, you're Pakistani, you know more than me. But I would assume it's the complete opposite, given what happened over Kashmir. What was it? 2 years ago, 18 months ago, a year ago, where they basically beat India, whatever. And then in terms of what's happening in what I just mentioned, the America Iran thing, Pakistan's military and the stuff that I see on social media, which is not representative of the truth exclusively, but it seems like a lot of Pakistanis are starting to take pride in their military again in a very like aggressive way.
That's because you cannot say anything on social media that is against the military.
Yeah.
Recently, they killed people in Kashmir. Kashmir had protesters, and they started shooting people there, like openly shooting people. That's how desperate they've become. And in 2023, there was a big protest. Was it 2023 or 2024? There was a big protest um, outside the army headquarters, orchestrated by Imran Khan and his
Mhm.
party. And that on the 9th of May, we call it 9th of May. And that really put a lot of pressure on the army. And since then, the army has sort of thought of itself as unwelcome in the country,
Mhm.
and so they've been doing exceedingly bad things. They've been Yeah, like recently they arrested a senator without any kind of charges or anything like that. The
Hmm.
situation, like the public has turned on the military a lot, and you don't see that on social media because they don't let it happen. They it's quite dictatorial. Um, but that's what I'm saying. That as somebody on the inside, I feel like the military doesn't really have a lot of ambitions. They're just protecting themselves at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Other,
very interesting what you said about the public sentiment.
yeah,
I
like
thought it
if
would have
you,
been.
it's difficult to see that on social media,
Uh-huh.
because of the like ridiculous amounts of censorship. But you'll definitely, it's definitely true.
Okay.
Um, somebody said nothing good comes out of Pakistan, bro. I came out of Pakistan. I think that's proof enough. That's your question is invalid at this point. Anything else you want to see?
Um, I don't know, guys. Ask us questions, man.
Any thoughts on drawing maps for Muslim Empire by this time on their own? I am not publishing those maps, but I just my one of my maps just went to pre-order. It is called the Spread of Islam. I wish I could share my screen here. Can I share my screen here? I would love to plug it in. But okay, go to almuqaddimah.com. My poster just went into pre-sale, pre-order. It shows the spread of Islam. It shows all these territorial conquests of Muslims. I'm going to make a video about it, so I'll give you more details. But for now, if you want, you can check it out on my website, almuqaddimah.com.
Okay, there's an annoying guy who keeps saying Tariq is literally illiterate about Pakistan, but he's just copy and pasted the same message. Why are you posting it? Don't pin it. Don't give
No,
idiots.
this person is from Multan, and I have a problem with Multanis, and so that's
Good.
why.
I have a problem with this guy because he just keeps copy and pasting the same thing and nobody's giving him attention. But now I just gave him attention. Do you want to tell me why I'm illiterate? I hate when people make statements and then they don't explain.
Yeah, that happens a lot. People are annoying, and also like, yeah, I've recently gotten a lot of comments on my videos about slavery. People are like, "Oh, you don't know anything about Islam." I'm like, okay, tell me what I said wrong.
Oh, dude, I saw one of your shorts saying that you got a lot of backlash. Can you fill me in? What kind of backlash? You got backlash from Muslims
I
saying
made
you
like
shouldn't be
seven,
highlighting this?
I made like a 70. You know, I watch every single one of your videos. You don't watch my videos.
Huh?
I watch every single one of your videos, and you don't watch my videos.
No, no. Don't say I don't watch your videos like I don't watch any of them. I don't watch every single one of them. What do you want from me?
Rude. It's called supporting a bro.
No, I support you. I'll like the video without even having to watch it. So which one are you talking about? Dealing with the dark side of Islamic history or the
Yes,
female?
that one.
Uh,
So it was about like I got a lot of backlash. People telling me that um slavery didn't exist, or that slavery was good, or that it wasn't technically rape or whatever. And I got a lot, like some people were calling me Israeli. Some people who just I think watched the short, they thought that um I was paid by India or Israel.
oh no
So yeah,
way.
I got a lot of backlash for that. And I always do get backlash for slavery videos because people like to believe that Islamic slavery was somehow better,
Hmm.
which it really was not. It was terrible. Um,
Dude, that's one of the things I absolutely flipping hate about the internet is I guess it just comes with the territory. It's part and parcel of it.
Hmm.
Just how people make their assumptions so quickly of things.
Yeah.
I legit have videos where I'll have comments saying, "Oh, you're a European bootlicker," and then you go down a couple comments. "Oh, how much did Israel pay you for this video?" No, sorry. You're a Wahhabi. They're accusing me of being a Salafi. It's like it can't be both of those things. It has to be one or the
Yeah.
other. Pick a struggle.
Yeah, I get the same. Under the very same video, I'll be accused of being a Shia and a Wahhabi, and I'm like, you guys need to have a discussion between yourselves and come up with one label and apply it to me.
Mm.
It is crazy, but yeah, like slavery is something that people don't like to talk about, so I got a lot of backlash for that, which just makes me want to make more videos about that. To be honest, I get called Orientalist a lot now. I like Edward Said's work, but I
Mm.
feel like the label that he gave people, Orientalist, is pretty damaging at this point, because people just, oh, you're Orientalist. If you even like mention a non-Muslim in your videos or something like that, people go, oh, you're Orientalist, or you're looking at Orientalist sources. This is propaganda against Muslims and all that.
Mhm.
Even though like Muslims did bad stuff too. Like, what do you want me to do about that? Um, but yeah,
I
I
think
actually,
I think it's just a reflection of the time period we're living in, man. You know,
yeah, I'm
because
reading.
go on. What are you reading?
Sorry. Um, I somebody commented about the third temple, something about the third temple, I think.
Yeah.
Um, somebody said something like that. I'm reading a book about the history of the third temple, so like this propaganda about the third temple.
Mm.
When Muslims first conquered Jerusalem, a lot of Christians thought that Muslims were some sort of sect of Jews, and they thought that Muslims are gonna build um, the third temple.
Mm.
And so the apocalypse is going to come by, so we get a lot of apocalyptic literature at this time, and it's very interesting that I'm gonna make a video about that. Yeah. Do you
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Pin Ninth Panzer Division. I've just joined your membership, Tarek. Love my guy. Love my guy. Appreciate you. I don't know if you're German, but if you are, I like Germany.
wait, is Ninth Panzer Division? I feel like that's Nazi something. Is that it? Please don't be that.
It is. It is. No, it's in World War II. They don't have to. Well, they kind of have to be Nazis, but maybe they're not ideologically Nazis. They just wanted to, perform their duties for their fatherland or something.
This is a question that I want to get to. I have a book here somewhere
Hey,
that
that
talks
is funky.
about
Is
that.
it?
Dude, it's fun. It's fun. I love talking about religion. And religious studies is so interesting. I don't know. It's people take it the wrong way, but I love talking about religion and how these ideas like come together, and you see ideas forming in one place and showing up in the other place. It is amazing how these things happen.
100%. 100%. But you need to be civil. It goes without saying, you need to be very civilized to have this discussion, because this is a
Mm.
very touchy topic for a lot of people, naturally. So you can't just be some brain rot 2026 baby who's just talking in triggering ways.
Yeah, this person is saying fight a little more. Oh yeah, about that actually. Did you guys know that Tariq and I have somewhat exchanged positions? Tariq used to be a staunch capitalist, and I used to be a staunch socialist. But now we're a little bit closer, or maybe
No,
we met each other on the road as we crossed to the other side. I'm not saying I'm a capitalist,
no,
but
basically you changed and I didn't.
no, you did. You and I were talking about it. Like, um,
No. Go on.
you were saying, I understand that the complaints about capitalism and affordability and all these things.
Listen, let me give you some insight into how Tariq's mind works. Yeah, I have my fundamentals in place. Yeah, my principles, and those fundamentals will be honed through a variety of different ways. One of them is from influence from the outside, like what's going on in my life and in society, in general. And when those things change, all it does is it just shines a light on different fundamentals Tariq has. I don't like the word socialist or any of those kind of things, but what you would describe to be a socialist, yeah, the state's duty to provide certain services for its people and whatever, just to care for its people, if you want to make it super abstract. I don't ever remember not thinking that that was super duper 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 important. Like, I'm talking, you have to go back to me when I was a baby in a refugee camp, yeah, decades ago. That is ingrained in me. But then when what's happening on the outside, at society at large, that's gonna have an impact on it. And considering what's happening right now, I think we need a lot more what would be described socialist policies, socialist mentalities, etc., etc.
I've got a tiny little book here that
Now is not a time for capitalism. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of way of thinking, in general, that's a very, very healthy way of thinking. But come on,
I've
Like,
got a little book for you here that you should read.
mm,
Mm. I think this book gets a lot of flack for no reason. It actually doesn't have. It's a tiny little book. There's nothing in there.
there's a layer. No, I can't even talk about this because I have aspirations on YouTube. But whatever. Yeah, I have a really big problem with communism. It's a really obvious one. It's an elephant in the room, but we shall not get into that.
What is the elephant in the room? I'd like to
Well,
talk.
we're not going to get into it.
Oh,
I'll get into it with you off camera, but
oh wow. See, that's why I don't. I think Tariq is kind of a baby. He doesn't like to talk about content. Do you guys know that he doesn't make videos about Islamic history before the year 700? That is
661 AD.
that is a
661
that is a
AD.
wimp behavior. Be a man.
No, that's not wimpy. You're not crazy for thinking I'm wimpy. That's a very logical assumption to arrive at. But no, 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 it's not wimpy. It's respect. Muslims find that period way too important, and it's good. It's good. I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing. It's beautiful. They damn near consider it as like semi-holy. I'm not trying to step on no eggshells. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of guy where I find it difficult to hold my tongue. You know what I mean? You should never tell me the truth, because I'll tell you more than you bargained for. But nah, that's not wimpy. What are you talking about?
You have no balls. I'm sorry.
The way you said that sounded like you had no balls. You have no balls.
That's what I meant.
Shut up.
Anything else? Oh, thank you. I actually really liked that video. Yeah. Have you heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No, I don't even know what you just said. Is that like some account online?
It's fine. You don't get it. What else? What else? What else? Do you see anything? Dude,
Let me ask you.
You don't like taking history questions, right?
I love taking history questions. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Like you were always talking about. Oh yeah. By the way, what have you? You've recently had a pivot to more modern videos, right? More
Yeah,
modern
yeah.
videos.
So I've changed a couple of things about my channel. And number one is I will be covering certain current events through a historical lens, obviously. So my last video, the Strait of Hormuz one, watch that. It is a good example of that, where I cover the history of it for, let's say, the first 40% of the video, and then I go into why it matters today. So trying to show the utility of history. And then another format that I have introduced, the first video of that format goes live today. I don't know when exactly. I'm still working on the thumbnail. In a couple of hours, I guess, where I'm calling it a commentary format, where I take a certain big question in history and I just give you my opinion and I rant about it. Not a lot of video editing. It's just me on camera. So the video that will be going live today is, was Ataturk a hero or a catastrophe? And I always have to choose. So
You know why I don't like these kinds of videos?
Go on, tell me.
Because I feel like with these videos, you'll get more subscribers than me. You might actually beat me.
Dude, the thing you got to remember about Tariq, yeah, is I'm not that talented. I'm not excellent at anything, really. But I grind. You know what I mean?
It's
And I
not about
don't accept.
talent or grinding. On YouTube,
I
it's
don't know.
not.
It's all about. Yes, it is. No.
No,
Life is about grinding.
on YouTube, it's about appealing to people with your topics, with your like, for example, this kind of debate. Oh, what do you think the what would have happened if this hadn't happened? Alternate history and stuff like that. That is something that people like to talk about because it's interesting, even though it doesn't really actually do anything. It's just a waste of time. Which I think is something that people like to do, and that gets a lot of subscribers. And I think that's interesting. But no, your thing about modern history and these kind of controversial topics, was Ataturk a hero or whatever? It get a lot of views. If you beat me in the subscribers race, I will get legit very angry.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised it's taken me this long, but I'm definitely gonna beat you, right?
We'll see about that. We'll see about that.
Can you go ahead and do me a favor? My new favorite guy on YouTube, Ninth Panzer Division. Hot take: yes, he was a hero. Okay, it seems like the a rift has come in our budding relationship, Panzer Division, because I disagree with you
You think he
completely.
wasn't a hero?
No, I don't think he was a hero. I think he was a catastrophe. I will go into a little bit more length in my video, but little backstory. I used to think he was a hero when I was in my early to mid 20s. I used to think he was incredible, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that he was basically just a sellout.
Dude,
Yeah, yeah.
you and I have switched positions on that. When I was younger, I thought of him as a catastrophe, but now I think of him as a not a hero. I don't like to say hero, but I do think that he what he did was pretty good.
That's why you're not making gains in your lifestyle, Wish. You're just doing the opposite of me, man. You're regressing. Come on, progress with me, man. How could he have been a hero? Remember what I said, I think, right at the beginning of this live stream? Sovereignty, like the ability for countries to take actions which is determined by them, if not exclusively 80-90%, that is super important. And this guy, it's really weird, in an attempt to try to gain sovereignty, he gave away sovereignty. You know
How
what I
did he
mean?
do with sovereignty?
by
Sovereignty.
by changing the identity of his people on quite a grassroots level. You know, that process for you to have changed your identity from, let's just say it broadly, an Eastern centric one versus a Western centric one, that process is not going to be as smooth. It's not going to be so smooth for you to assume that in a generation or two or three or even four, that's 100 years, yeah? That is not enough time for that process, that metamorphosis from East to West to take place. So as that process is messing up, your understanding of who you are, your identity, it's just not it's just not going to be firmly established because it's not enough time that has elapsed. Do you see what I'm saying?
That I agree with you on.
Does that make sense?
I agree with you on. He went too far too fast in terms of social change.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with that. But I
Tarik
don't think
dislikes
that
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 tactic as well.
disqualifies him from the. I mean, again, I don't like to use the word hero, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't really go ahead and say that. But I think that what he did, like he did, indeed, actually save Anatolia from Western powers. Otherwise, Anatolia would definitely have been divided. Constantinople could have
Mm-hmm.
gone to Greece and stuff like that. So he definitely did that. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think that he went too far in terms of like secularization, and it's because of him that sort of the pendulum is swinging far in the other direction. That's something. Although the best thing he did might be controversial, he turned the Hagia Sophia into a museum. That I think
You
was
think
great.
that's the best thing? Why?
Because the Hagia Sophia should be a museum, it should not be a mosque. And so I do think that was a good thing that he did because um, inherently the Hagia Sophia cannot be a mosque. I
Because there
want
used to be a church.
it has a lot of portraits of Christ.
Excellent. Okay.
I went to Hagia Sophia actually about a year ago, like last year these days, and
Mm.
there are portraits of Jesus where you're praying,
Mm.
which to me felt very weird. And
Yeah.
when you go in there, you can kind of feel an awkward jamming of like the calligraphy and stuff like that on top of what was
Mm.
clearly a church. Um, and to me, that feels a little weird. I feel like because the Christians built it, the Greeks built it, and at that time, of course, them's were the rules. You take a church and then you turn it um, into a mosque to show people that there's a new boss in town. But I think that he did the right thing by converting it into a museum, and I think that's what it should have been. This is it's a little pandering thing. But the good thing about the mosque is that as a Muslim or as anybody really, you can enter for free the mosque part, which is good because the museums in Istanbul are goddamn crazy expensive. But yeah,
Mm. I would. I definitely don't think you're crazy for your take. I'm a little torn. I'm like 75% agreeing with you, or maybe 70%, and then 30% the other way. Because just the idea of praying inside as a Muslim, I guess, I know it's a selfish viewpoint, but praying in the Hagia Sophia sounds like I would get out of bed in the morning for that.
I don't know. It's just the glory of Hagia Sophia, but like praying, going to specifically because oh no, I like this particular mosque because we took it from the Christians, so I want to pray there. That's just weird. We have a
Yeah.
lot of mosques in Istanbul. There are hundreds of mosques, and they're empty. Not empty, but like not enough Muslims are praying as many as should.
No, no, no. The point that you made, which kind of convinced me a little bit, was the iconography. You know, like
Yeah, that
even
is
just from an Islamic point of view, whatever. I don't know exactly what the rules are Islamically for that, but that doesn't sound like it would agree
yeah.
with this one.
Mosques like the Soleimani Mosque. I loved that mosque. I was there and
Soleimani Mosque is
the
incredible.
Blue Mosque. If I was there, if I lived there, I would go there every evening.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a very beautiful mosque. I
You
think
know,
it's
I
actually
prefer the Soleimani Mosque over the Blue Masjid. The Blue Mosque.
interesting. The Blue Mosque
Yeah, yeah.
is I like the location of the Soleimani Mosque better.
Oh, there's location for sure, Eminunu or whatever, with the boats and the bridge and whatever. But no, this is gonna sound really weird, but the Blue Mosque just felt like it was a little too big for no reason. You know what I mean? Like there was, and that's cool in and of itself. It talks about the scale and the scale of the project and everything. But I don't know, things just felt a little bit more compact with the Soleimani.
Another thing about the Hagia Sophia, when you enter the mosque side,
Mhm.
to your side, you can see they have placed like the ruins of the older churches that existed before the Hagia Sophia.
Mm.
That to me felt kind of weird that we're walking
Mm.
by the ruins of a church of this civilization that stood here before, and we're
Mhm.
entering a building that was built by them, and we're praying in there under the mosaics of Jesus. And on the other
Mm.
side, you have Viking mural, Viking graffiti, and stuff like that. So it
Yeah,
always
the mural.
it feels a little bit janky to me. That
This is interesting, Sewish. Again, Ninth Panzer Division. The Blue Mosque is prettier than Hagia Sophia. Interesting thing. I think if the only Ottoman architecture mosque that was available in Istanbul was the Blue Mosque, then I would agree with you. But considering there's so many and Hagia Sophia is a little bit different, fairly different to it, I would actually disagree with you. I think that Hagia Sophia looks a little prettier than the Blue Mosque at the moment. But if I only had to choose between those two, and there was the only two mosques / churches in the city, I think I would definitely choose the Blue Mosque.
yeah, the Hagia Sophia, it feels a little awkward, like the way that it stands there and it's Muslim now. It just feels weird.
No, but I love that. I love when buildings throughout history have been repurposed, ideally multiple times, but even if it's just 2 times, that's incredible.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, back in the day, it was part of the game that you take over a city and you have to turn its biggest church into a mosque or its biggest mosque into a church in order to show people that there's a new boss in town. But I think that like once it's been converted into a museum, it should not have been converted back into a mosque. That's what I'm saying.
Mm.
And the Salon has said that shouldn't the mosquito? I do think that that should also be a museum.
Mm. Tarek, should Christians be allowed to pray in the Hagia Sophia? Well, it depends on circumstances, I guess. If it's already a mosque, again, remember, I am not an expert on Islamic law. Well, I'm just going off like intuition and common sense and what makes sense to me. That doesn't sound like it would make sense. If it's being used as a mosque, it doesn't make sense for Christians to then use it as a place of worship as well. But I mean, if it's honestly, I think just do what Siawish said. Just make it a museum.
Yeah, don't let anyone.
I mean, if it's
a
museum, you don't let anyone pray there. If it's a museum,
yeah, like nobody would pray there. I mean, you can kind of pray just walking around, like you can say your prayers or whatever you want to say, but like officially, I don't think there should be any prayers. Yeah,
okay.
Officially, I don't think there should be any prayers.
Yeah, probably not, to be honest, just to avoid any potential conflict.
Yeah,
Right.
and because the building was not built by Muslims, right? It is a building that has like a much longer history, um, going back as a church by Justinian, and even before Justinian, it was a church that I think was destroyed in
But it
90.
has been a long time since it was a church. That is
Yeah,
a key point too. And for those of you that are ready to fire the mosquito argument at me, it applies for that too. Like,
yeah,
to turn the mosquito back into a mosque right now, obviously there's a multifaceted analysis that is required here, but it almost feels like that doesn't make sense. It hasn't been a mosque for like 800 years. Why would it become a
yeah.
mosque again? That
And there
sounds like
aren't
a big deal.
enough Muslims in Cordoba to, and also it's a mosque. Like a mosque inherently is not something that, is of much value to Muslims other than a few specific mosques. You can pray
Mm,
anywhere. It's not a problem. So, but
mm.
it's about access, and it's about going into a building and celebrating the history of humanity and that building. Um, and so I think that's a much more important thing. Do you know when the last Christian prayer in the Hagia Sophia was, though?
The last, I'm assuming it's a trick question, so it's not going to be 1453 or something,
No,
right? So
it
wait.
was in the 19th century, when some Christian workers were working in there for some
Oh,
restoration project. One of them died, and they
uh-huh.
gave him the last rites there.
Oh,
That was the last one.
nice, nice.
That. What about the old churches that Muslims have bought and used as a mosque in the UK? That is a completely different thing.
It
That's
is, but this is what I'm saying. Like the current climate we find ourselves, these questions are going to be questions regarding places of worship and who uses them, especially from a historical lens. We should be careful with them, man. Just leave them alone, man. Honestly, until we leave this climate, maybe it might be smart to make any of those sites that that are fought over, just make all of them museums until everybody kind of calms down, and then we can whatever apportion them accordingly. But for now, just leave this topic alone because.
Yeah, like these buildings, they're much more about access. The only thing I like about them being religious buildings is the fact that they let you go in there for free. But this, other than that, it's I don't think that there's any need for.
And plus, in regards to that last question, if you've bought it, then you've bought it. Like,
This is a different conversation. Like this is a different thing
yeah,
because
yeah,
Muslims bought these buildings from the owners of these buildings. Muslim, and these are not. This is not a Muslim empire that's bought it. These are Muslim immigrants who bought it with like a legitimate deal. There was no coercion. There's no nothing
they
anything like.
are British citizens.
Yeah,
So the
that's
problem is, if you have an issue with this, then your line of inquiry should be broadened. It's not about this specific question. It touches upon things like, oh, can Afghans who migrate to the UK actually become British, and things of that nature. So
yeah. This is a
I don't know if
completely different conversation.
yeah.
Like this is, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like if like there's a thing, right? Like Mehmed Fateh conquered Istanbul, and then he bought the land of Hagia Sophia from Christians.
Mm,
There was coercion there. There was, even if he didn't directly say it, there was definitely coercion there. But this
mm,
is a legitimate transaction, and I think that this one is a completely different thing. This is a business thing. This is totally fine.
mhm, mhm. Can I ask you a question, Siawish?
Yeah.
If obviously we've bemoaned the business structure of YouTube at length, and how it brings up a bunch of different hurdles for us as creators. But say, for example, none of those things were issues. Maybe you had so much money that you didn't necessarily care about the monetary value of YouTube or whatever. If you could make, say, a series, not like a standalone video, if you could make a series of videos where money was not an issue, you didn't care about the performance, or you knew that the performance was going to be great, what would that series be about?
I mean, I'm already making videos. One of my goals is, those videos that I make, like series of Mughals and Abbasids and Umayyads and stuff like that. Those videos don't do well. But I do them because I want to cover that topic on YouTube. So that's that. If money, I mean, even right now, to be honest, I don't take the money I make from YouTube into account a lot,
Hmm.
because I don't get a lot of views. So I'm already like burnt out a little bit on this. So I'm doing whatever I want to do. It's
Hmm.
not about money. If I did have the money to do something, then I would definitely travel and make videos about that. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, like right now, I'm making videos on topics that I do want to make videos on. Some of the topics are a little bit more research oriented, where I cannot do the research that I need to do. Um, so that's something that is a bit complicated. But other than that, it's yeah. How about you?
Um, I know what I would do. First of all, it would incorporate a bunch of traveling, like you mentioned, but not like some travelogue YouTube content. More like old school documentaries where they would actually record on site and stuff. If I'm talking about Hagia Sophia, I'm standing in front of the Hagia Sophia, not some AI green screen, whatever, etc. But I would probably make it about the formation of the modern Middle East. So I I would I would probably, I don't know, it would have to be like a 10-part series covering everything 1800s onwards. How the
Interesting.
modern Middle East was created.
You
Like,
should
why
do
does
that.
it look?
You should do that even now. I think it would do very well.
Yeah, I have basically done that without, with more limited resources and stuff. Um, I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called Making of the Modern Middle East. So go check that out.
I have a video here about the modern middle, a book here about the modern Middle East that I've been meaning to read, and I do want to make more videos on that too. Um, Especially
Who,
because
who,
of charts.
who wrote it? Is it Eugene
I'm not
Rogan?
sure. It was gifted to me by a friend, and
Mm.
I actually cannot find it now. I don't know where it is. I have no idea where it is. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Hmm.
Yeah, History of the Modern Middle East by Cleveland. This guy.
Oh.
This was gifted to me by a friend, and I haven't read it yet. But oh, interesting! This guy is a professor at here in Vancouver at the Simon Fraser University.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Is
cool.
that a recent book or it's an old one?
Does not seem that recent.
Hmm.
It was printed in 2004.
Nice. Well, that is kind of recent. I was more alluding to
That's
like
fairly
70.
recent. Like it covers, but I feel like some of his, if there are opinions and stuff, then there might be things that might not have aged very well. But still, I do want to read that. I would like to meet this guy as well.
Uh, you got a question, a paid question.
Yes. Just a second. Um, wasn't the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus a church here? I have a video where I talk about that. It's by Al Walid. It was initially under Muawiyah. It was a church under Abdul Malik. No, Abdul Malik actually tried to make it, but under him it was a church as well. It was Al Walid who took over and turned it into a mosque. Before that, Muslims, because it was also the site of the tomb of John the Baptist, aka Prophet Yahya in Islam. Muslims and Christians shared the site early on, but then Al Walid took it from the Christians and he turned it into a mosque. And the reason that it looks like a church is because it was very much meant to be a church. Not a church in the way that it was actually a literal church, but it was meant to be a cathedral the way that um, European cities, especially Constantinople at its center, had a cathedral. So the Umayyad Mosque there was supposed to be a sort of an Islamic Hagia Sophia. Um, so that's why it looks very much like a church. Interesting thing about that, by the way, Al Walid had artisans come in from the Byzantine Empire to work on the mosques in Mecca and Medina, and there were mosaics there as well. So during that time, the mosques at Mecca and Medina looked very much like Byzantine churches do.
Wow.
I'd be okay with Hagia Sophia being a mosque if the Irene could become a church again. I mean, what? I thought it was already a church. It is apparently a museum. Oh, interesting. Oh, I've been there. I how could I forget that? I've been there. Um, yeah, it is a museum right now. I mean, it's in the Topkapi, so I feel like they would not be turning it into a church anytime soon. Um, but yeah, I think it's museum. The other one is museum too. I think it's fine. By the way, I recently met Norman Finkelstein.
You met him?
Yeah, at a book launch.
Nice.
I
Well,
tried to get his media team to join me on my channel, but they haven't gotten back to me. I gave them my card and everything, but they haven't gotten back to me. I wanted to
did
do
you
it.
interact with him?
Yes, I have a photo with him even.
What is he
Uh,
like? Be honest and be respectful, because he
he
seems
seems,
a very.
he seems like a very
Oh,
nice guy, and he asked me what I do,
mhm,
and so he wasn't like just doing a book signing and moving away. He actually like tried to make conversation in some ways, or at least be polite enough to ask me what I do. And we talked. I actually wanted to ask him about if he thinks that there's an industry going to appear around the genocide of Palestine in the same way that there has an industry appeared around the Holocaust.
mhm,
But I didn't ask him that, but because I felt like he's part of it. But yeah, he
mhm.
signed the book. This is his new book, Gaza's Gravediggers. He signed it. Can you see it?
I can, yeah.
Said to Siavish, so that's nice.
Very
Um,
nice.
he seems like
Uh, I asked the question because I was gonna say, I hope this doesn't come across as rude. He seems as quite an awkward personality.
he is definitely that definitely he is quite silent and not very talkative, but he's polite enough to like try to make conversation so that you feel like he's listening to you and stuff. Um, so which I think is pretty cool. But yeah,
All
he
right,
definitely very like awkward and kind of silent kind of person.
Sawish, can you pin the question I just asked? So this is something that I'm getting in my videos, comments in my videos, quite frequently now. I've been getting them for the last couple of years. This is in reference, just a little bit of context for those of you that don't know. This is in reference to me or probably Wish when we're talking about, say, modern history, and we invoke names like the British Empire, British colonialism, Russian colonialism, etc., etc. But some people in my videos, they leave comments like this saying, "Oh, that's a double standard because why do we never talk about Islamic colonialism?" Now, before I go forward, Siawish, can you go first? Can you tell me what do you think about this? Do you think there is a double standard, or do you think it's justified? Because there is a difference.
Colonialism and imperialism are not the same thing.
Right.
When we talk about colonialism in the modern sense of the word,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is very different from empires of the past. The same way that we don't call it Merovingian or Carolingian colonization when France was building this huge empire in the Dark Ages, and we don't call the Roman Empire a colonial state either, even though actually Rome did have colonies. Um, Colonialism and they are completely different. It's
Okay, so I
about
made a mistake. I made a mistake. Forget colonialism, imperialism.
in terms of Islamic imperialism, yes. Um, I do think that there is a bit of a double standard
Hmm.
when we talk about that. We do, especially within Muslims, because we like to imagine all these things within Islamic law, and that's something that Muslims do. And I talk about this in the context of slavery as well, where Muslims imagine that just because Islam put a lot of limitations on slavery, that means that slavery under Islam must have been a little bit less brutal. It was not. Um, so the same thing is with imperialism. But the thing about imperialism, here's the thing: there are two types of history, in my opinion. There's living history and there's dead history. Genghis Khan putting like 1 million people in the city of Balkh in Afghanistan, in what is today Afghanistan, to the sword is dead history. when we talk about it, we can go into a bit more nuance and a bit less emotion when we go into that. We can say he did it for political reasons.
Mm,
But the same cannot be said of recent genocides because they are
mm,
alive events. For example, the
mm,
Holocaust.
mm,
You cannot make a statement about the Holocaust that is devoid of emotion because it is still an alive event. It is an event that is still relevant. It is an event whose survivors are actually still alive. There are some survivors of the Holocaust who are still alive, and their children
mm,
very much are alive. So it is a
mm,
matter of emotion for a lot of people. So there's a difference between that. And when we talk about colonialism, the Mughal Empire ruled all of India,
mhm,
but it should not be as relevant as the British Empire because the British Empire's impact is still being felt by us today. So the British Empire is part of the living history, and the
right.
Mughal Empire is not,
Mhm,
which is why it's arbitrary, but these two things are touched on differently.
mhm.
It's a double standard for sure, but that's the reason. It's not because of religion or anything. I think it's because of duration.
I like your distinct with the thing you said about dead history and alive history. I think that's a very smart point. Um, and I'm not 100% sure about this. I do think there is a double standard to this, obviously, but I'm not 100% sure about this. But one thing that I'm playing with in my mind is that I think it depends who does it as well, which probably isn't going to sound very nice to a lot of people. But what I mean by that is if a culture that is really different from yours comes and does some imperialism to you, maybe because, like you said, it will stay in your psyche for longer or whatever. Um, but I think if a culture that is very, very different from yours ends up doing it to you, and then they stay and they try to change important elements of your identity, etc., etc., that might count as more imperialism than if your next door neighbor, Afghanistan and Iran, where it's like, yeah, they're different, but they're very similar too. Also, the method that you do it, I think that plays a big role in it as well. Imperialism, I'm talking about, not colonialism. Like, if you just naturally, like in most Muslim societies, the majority of people who ended up converting to Islam or adopting the Arabic language was just because they just saw it had more material benefit for them on a daily basis, right? Sorry to sound so kind of secular. I'm sure there were spiritual elements to it too. Um, that does not feel the same. It might still be imperialism. Like from an objective definition point of view, that's probably still imperialism, but it doesn't feel the same as somebody who, from very far away, a very different culture, comes up to you and says, "Your culture is inferior. Why do you have this stupid language, etc." That feels more like imperialism as we know it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, I'd like to. There's a comment about that I think adds to it. The Mughal Empire was the foundation of British rule. It's harder to criticize not the Mughal rule and condemning British rule. There's a difference between the Mughal Empire and
Yeah,
British Empire. The Mughals were, first of all, they might have been born outside of India, but they were very Indian by the third generation.
yeah.
They were as Indian as anybody else was. And then we also come to the question of statehood. What right does Washington have to collect taxes from California or to tell California what to do, right? And the same could be true. What right did the Mughals have to rule Karnataka or some other part in South India? But when the Mughals extracted wealth from these parts, they spent it within India. Again, there we come into the class problem. They spent it on their own betterment as well. They lived in palaces while the people were starving. All these things, notwithstanding, what the British did was they extracted wealth from India and they took it back home. They used India as a production factory.
There you go. That's a good point too.
And the British, they came in and they tried to change things, like Tariq, the way that you said, they tried to change things too much. They tried to kill the Indian and keep the British Indian men. I think that the brown British, something like that. There was a term for people who were brown, but they were India English on the brown Englishmen. Sorry, that was the term.
Huh.
They tried to like change us completely. The Mughals did not try to do that. The Mughals didn't try to implement their own force over the rest of
That's a
their.
great point. If the Mughals, fair enough, the Mughals have roots which are foreign to
Yeah.
India, but they became Indian. They saw themselves as Indian. If India prospered, they prospered. If India went through tough times, they went through tough times. And so I'm not saying that this person is equating Mughal rule to the British rule, but I think they are night and day difference. There's probably similarities, but they
Yeah.
are very, very different.
I'm not saying the Mughals should not be criticized. What I'm saying is that the Mughals are old enough that we can put them into a dead history kind of point. We should put them into a dead history kind of point, which the Hindu nationalists don't want to. And you can criticize the imperial parts of it. I mean, I'm what.
No, hold on. Why would we put the Mughal Empire into dead history? Flesh that out for me.
Because most of the things that the Mughals did have by now solidified themselves as part of an identity.
Right.
And there's no like the Muslims, for example. There's that thing, right? If you force someone to convert to Islam or you manipulate them into converting to Islam, that's one thing. But then by a couple of generations later, their descendants are staunch Muslims, right? That's what I'm talking about. That the Mughals, the things that they did are now part of India, whereas the things that the British did are still not part of India. Maybe 300 years later, we can put the British into a dead empire category as well.
Okay. By the way, I'm serving as a devil's advocate here, but fair point. But I would my rebuttal to that would be imagine Tariq as a Hindutva. I'm gonna channel my inner Hindutva right now and say I don't accept that what the Mughals did should be accepted as part of Indianness. So what do you say to that?
I would ask you to be more specific because they lived here. Not by here, I mean India. They married within Indian society. The things that they did, I'm not defending imperialism. I'm not defending the fact that they took money from the farmers and built palaces on that and all that.
It's just a Mughal British comparison. Yeah, I get it.
But in that way, enough time has passed that people have forgotten that these things were done by or in reaction to the British, to the Mughals. And the people who saw the people who saw a time before the Mughal Empire are gone now. And like enough time has passed. We still have the British, we still have their records, we're still going through them, and we're still feeling the impact of colonialism within our laws, within our systems, and all these things. That's something that is much different. And that's same thing is happening as well. I think the identity of the Hindu itself is something that the British crafted. But now Hindus think of themselves as this thing that has existed since forever, but it was something very, very much that the British crafted.
You're saying the British crafted in the sense of like a unitary identity, whereas beforehand, right?
One group of people. And the same can be said of the Pashtun. The Pashtun did not exist as a solitary people. They were crafted into that by the Delhi Sultanate and then by Abdali. But that is old enough that we've forgotten about that. That doesn't matter anymore. That now those
wait. Hold on. You have to break that one down for me. What do you mean they weren't considered solitary?
Would you consider the Khalji dynasty to be Pashtun?
That's a good question. Culturally, maybe, yeah, but nah, not really. No, they're not.
That's exactly what I mean. Before like Abdali put this state together, these various Pashtun tribes, they didn't really
Ahmad Shah Abdali.
Yeah, like before he put Afghanistan together, and for the Hotak dynasty and all that. Like these tribes that lived in Afghanistan, they didn't consider themselves to be like brothers in the same way that they do after Abdali, right?
Maybe, but no. That I don't think. I think that's too big of a reach. And I think the reason why I can't answer that very definitively is the same reason why you are able to make assumptions like that. It's because we don't necessarily have so much records of Pakhtuns either writing or creating their own polities, but we don't necessarily know like what people were thinking. I mean, I know that there is poetry from the 17th and early 18th century where it looks like it's very well defined, the notion of what a Pakhtun is in terms of the character traits that they are supposed to have, the ideals that they are supposed to work towards, and that's not a process that happens like in a short period of time. So just using my common sense, I would assume that it was formulated well before the 17th century, well before. And just because something comes into existence as a polity, that doesn't mean before that there was none of that. There's no Kurdistan right now. Does that mean there's no Kurds? I mean, one of my closest friends is a Kurd.
No,
So,
okay. Let's go back to the Arabs.
mm,
Like before Prophet Muhammad, before Abdul Malik, really,
mm,
the Arabs did not exist as a single solitary unit of any kind. The southern Arabs didn't like the northern Arabs. They didn't get along.
right.
Like there were all these it was much more about the tribe that you belong to rather than a unitary identity as an Arab. It was much more about the tribe that you belong to.
That
That's
makes
what
sense, but I get that. But my problem is I am often triggered, I will be honest, when people give too much props to Europeans or Americans for like creating these big, markers of identity and stuff like that. I think just naturally when you look back in history, regardless of what place in the world, a long time ago, we had different ideas of what identity looked like
Yeah.
what a nation even meant 2000 years ago, 1500 years ago, doesn't exactly mean the same thing today. So I think that's just like not natural, because I think Europe as a whole, as a center of as an intellectual force, kind of facilitated this change in how people view themselves. On a communal level, but I don't think it's fair to say that the British
Yeah,
created
perhaps
the.
perhaps it's a matter of opinion very much. But that's what I think about.
No, because I'm saying like before the British, there were people, and it's as a Pakhtun, I wish I could take more pride in my people and say that we have written records from like 1,000 years ago and etc., all of this. But there was written records from like 300 years ago, before any Pakhtun would have dealt with any British person, of somebody referring to themselves and taking very, very strong pride in being a Pakhtun. So
No,
saying like,
just to clarify, I wasn't saying that the British created the Pashtun identity. I was saying that it
unified it.
you not the British didn't unify. I meant
They gave
Abdali.
it a label.
Abdali unified it.
Okay.
I didn't have. I was saying the British did to the Hindus what Abdali sort of did to the Pashtuns. He brought them all together, and in the same way, the British brought the Hindus together in the way that they defined their legal system, defined people as Muslims and everybody else, and then
Mm,
everybody else became
mm.
Hindus. And now that is a label that was created by the British. We were talking about living history, right?
Right.
That was created by the British, it's still very much alive, and now it's becoming part of India's core identity, and it might already have become part of India's core identity. That's what I'm saying. That if that my original point was that what the Mughals did has sort of become part of India's core identity, but what the British did has not yet completely become that. This comment is a good one. Ottoman imperialism in the Balkans seems more on the side of living history, very much so. The Ottomans are to the Balkans and the Caucasus what the British are to us, what the French are to North Africa. So yeah, like I
Yeah.
know if I talk about, I recently made a video about the Ottoman Empire in Greece.
Uh-huh.
I did not realize that it was very much on the side of living history.
Uh-huh.
I was just talking about the Krifosculi, or the hidden schools, and I didn't mean to say that the Ottomans were not brutal there, or the Ottomans were not doing this or that. My point was that these schools did not exist. Um,
Mm.
and people took the way that people responded to that. It made me think, okay, yeah, there's a lot more emotion to this. So this very much is living history, which cannot be talked about empty of emotion. You cannot really talk about it in the way that you can talk about, for example, Genghis Khan's killings.
Mm.
Yeah, is a lot more emotion involved in that. Any other question? Rudyard and Kipling were both born in India. Would you say that makes them Indian? No. And the reason why that is because they never identified themselves as Indian. It wasn't about being born in India. It was very much it was not. I mean, Rudyard Kipling lived a long time in India, so he was very aware of India, but he very much identified as a British man, and he lived within the British culture. And George Orwell was that's basically just where his mom was when he was born. That's his entire connection to India. Um, but compare that to the Mughals. The Mughals were actually born there. They lived there their entire lives. Their children lived there. They worked in that country.
And that is, by the way, that is one. I know you can push back on what I'm about to say, but that is one subtle difference between, say, for example, British and Ottoman imperialism, is that when the Ottomans sent out their administrators to far-flung provinces like flippin' Algeria, whatever, there was a term for it. They settled into that society, and then they became integral elements of that society, and then they eventually saw themselves as Algerians, as modern nationalism kind of swept the area. What were they called? Kulabali? Not Kulabali, that's a football player. Those Ottoman soldiers that went specifically in Algeria, and I think Tunisia too. There's a term for it. But yeah. And then the same thing with Egypt as well, right?
Yeah. And also, like, the Ottomans did a much better job of integrating locals into their bureaucracy than the British did. Like the
Yeah.
Mughals did, same with the Mughals. Like that's, I think, another part of the thing that if your bureaucracy is made up of foreigners, of your own people, and you're ruling a foreign empire, then that is also quite a bit of a difference between that.
Yeah. Did Tarek just post a question on his own Q&A? Yeah. Hell yeah.
Tariq is one of those guys who likes his own comments and be like, "Good point, bro," to himself.
Absolutely.
I have done that to myself as well. That's a different thing.
Harkis? No, I'm not talking about Harkis. I'm gonna find it. What is it? Algerians. I'm thinking of Kulabahi. What am I thinking of? Ottoman, Algerian. Let me just write Ottoman Algerian.
Yeah, this Ottomans didn't even damage the Balkans. I'm not even Turkish. They also massacred so many Balkan Muslims when they got help from European powers.
Kuluglu. Kuluglu. Children of mixed Turkish and local parentage.
That is a
Kuluglu.
fun term to say, kuluglu.
Yeah, Uglu is Turkish, I'm pretty sure, for son of Ibn.
Yeah.
But
Kuluglu. That's the kind of thing I would call my cat. Where is my cat? I haven't seen her all day today.
I was wondering why I was in a good mood.
Dude, that's not that cat. This cat is a very different cat. She is very reclusive.
You have a different cat?
Yeah, I gave away the last one. He was a foster, so he went back, and then I wanted to adopt him, but he died before I could. So I got a new one, and this one she is very reclusive. She doesn't like attention a lot at all. She's always hiding, and she's very anxious. And actually, because on my balcony I get pigeons a lot, so these days she is in full hunter mode. Like in the morning when I wake up, she is full hunter mode, but she cannot go on the balcony because the door is closed. So she comes by me and she meows at me to open it. But I don't open it, so she's very mad at me.
That's mad. Mad. So what's your new cat's name?
Poco.
Poco? The last one was Greyjoy, right?
Yes. I mean, this one is technically called Shireen.
Oh, wow.
But I call her Poco. I mean, I call her a lot of things. She doesn't listen, so it's fine. You can call her whatever you want. She has a very particular thing. She likes you on the basis of your height. If you are tall, she hates you. If you're short, she loves you.
Oh.
That is something I've noticed.
So that's why you got her? Because you're a short king?
I am taller than you.
How tall are you?
I am taller than you. I
How tall are you?
I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna meet you, and then we're gonna post a photo.
Why not? Just do it. Okay, we'll do that too. But just tell me how tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
Are you really 6'1"? That's hilarious. You're way taller than me, bro.
I know. You're a short
Nice.
king.
Congratulations. But see, this is the problem with your posture, man. Your posture makes it out like you're 5'7" or something.
No,
Speaking
it's
of it.
because I'm fat that I look short because I'm wider. So that's a different thing.
No, that's just because you add width, it doesn't warp time and reality. That's
It
not
does.
how it
It
works.
does. Like, you have a rectangle that's taller, but then you have a rectangle that's wider, so it looks shorter.
Okay, it looks, but that doesn't mean you are.
That doesn't mean I am, but it looks. That's why people think. Even people sitting next to me don't think that I'm as tall as I am until I stand up.
Wait, you're 6'1". How much are you in centimeters? Do you know how tall 6'1" is?
I think that's 187 or 189.
You're 187 centimeters, dude. You clear me by like 12 centimeters.
I know.
So okay,
Yeah.
this just changes everything. I look at you differently now.
I mean, Salon has met me in real life. He knows that I'm like, he's taller. This dude is taller than me. I look like a baby next to him, but he's Swedish, so that is not a good comparison.
Is he 6'6"?
He is. I think he's 2 meters for sure. That's like 6'4", I think. But yeah, something like that. He's taller than me. I'm taller than Philip, though.
Who's
Look.
Philip?
Philip from Let's Talk Religion.
Oh, no way. Okay.
I'm actually pretty much the same height as Matt, though.
Why are people casually above 6 foot, man? What the hell? It
Aww.
annoys me. Don't do that. I'd still take you in a fight. I'd take you in a fight.
No,
That's all
I feel the same way about people who are casually like thin. I know I have friends who eat much more than me, but genetically, because of like how their genetics works, they have a faster metabolism or something, and they don't get put on weight the way that I do.
Turns out, apparently, you're lying about your height. Solon just said you're 185 centimeters at best.
No, I'm not.
Come on, why are you lying?
I am not. No, I'm serious. I'm not lying at all.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Should we start wrapping this up? See if there's any final questions.
Sure. Wait, what is...
Whilst you guys are waiting, remember what I said earlier. I am gonna... Which 1 second. I'm making an announcement on my channel. I'm uploading a video today. Ataturk first in a brand new format, commentary format. Was Ataturk a hero or a catastrophe? Please join me in about 4 hours.
He's right here. Actually, I just did the math, and 6'1" is 185. I was wrong.
Now I can't trust you. It puts everything in doubt.
We use, both of us live in countries that use imperial for height.
I don't know what metric and imperial mean. I just use what I use, man.
You're from England. You guys also have that messed up system where you guys measure distances in miles and heights in feet and stuff like that. Some things in kilometer too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are the greatest contemporary Islamic scholar? What do you think? Who is the greatest contemporary Islamic scholar?
Contemporary meaning as in they're alive right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say myself, but I feel like that's too much glazing.
As I was about... Listen. As I was getting ready... No, I don't take that seriously. Everyone knows you're not. Listen, as I was about to get ready to answer that, the latest comment, the greatest Islamic scholar is your mom. I was like, oh my God, this is going to go in a crazy direction. And then he goes, listen to her, cherish her, because she won't always be there. That's very cute. I don't know. Who's like big names, like Tariq Ramadan? But I'm pretty sure he was mired with a bunch of issues and controversies recently. Who's out there? That's a better question.
I have no idea. I hear people's names. In terms of Islamic scholar, if you mean like scholars of theology, I actually have no idea. If you want
Oh,
history, I can give you a couple of names. Yasir Qadi, I like him
oh,
because
okay.
of his of the way that he talks, and also his
Mm.
Salafi. I am Salafi as well.
You're Salafi?
You didn't know that, dude? You don't watch my videos. I came out as Salafi last year.
Why you mention it like that? Okay. Um, you know what? I was ready to wrap this live stream up, but now I want to ask more about that. Talk to me. Since when are you Salafi, and why are you Salafi, and what is a Salafi? Start with what is a Salafi.
Have you ever heard the term Wahhabi?
By the way, no, I don't mean that for me. I mean that for everyone else, because I'm setting something up. Of course, I know what a flipping Salafi is. Come on, hurry up.
Well, Salafi is just people who believe in like this very extreme puritanical view of Islam. It is traced back to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, which I don't think is good. But
That's not true. That's Wahhabi. That's not Salafi.
yes, I mean Salafism
Salafi
is,
has a longer history than that.
the thing is the Salafis like to think that everybody likes to think that they go back to the Prophet. Like the first, everybody, you ask the Deobandis, they tell you that the first Sahaba were Deobandi. Salafis would say they were Salafi. So, stuff like that. But yeah, the Salafis, that's how it is. The puritanical kind of history as far as it goes, there have been a lot of scholars, I think, that can be put into the Salafi camp. The biggest name would be Ibn Taymiyyah, probably. But yeah, those are Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal is someone that Salafis look up to a lot, including myself. So
Muhammad Abdul. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't strike me as a guy that's like an extremist or somebody that likes the extremes.
I don't like the extremes. I am an extremist in only one aspect, and that is about monotheism. I think of monotheism or Tawheed to be a very high bar. I think to be a monotheist is a big deal. But other than that, I don't like the Wahhabi things going around killing people and being my way or the highway. But I do believe in their ideology. I do believe that what they preach, I think, is closer to original Islam than anything else.
But how do you reconcile that with what seems like a fairly tolerant, open-minded outlook that you have on life? How do you reconcile that with the stringentness of Wahhabism?
I just look at them and think, these guys are going to hell. It's none of my business.
Really?
No, I mean, I like to think that religion, in terms of religion and stuff like that, I think it's your business. I think everybody is smart enough to understand that this thing, they can do their own research. You can just Google things and you can look up if something is Islamic or anything. For example, I think that in Islam you must have a beard. You must have an unkept beard, a beard that just you never touch. I don't have that. And I admit to the fact that I am committing a sin according to my own beliefs, and may Allah forgive me for that. But that's what I believe. Like in terms of believing, I do believe that that's the thing. And
okay, so besides the unkept beard and the high standard for Tawheed, oneness of God that you have, what makes you? And by the way, which word should we use, Salafi or Wahhabi?
Salafi, I think, is better because
I like Salafi more. Yeah. So let's stick. Sorry. So then, what makes you a Salafi besides the unkept beard and the Tawheed?
The extreme ideology that they have, like this sort of extreme. You're touching your beard again.
I know. I just saw the comment.
Yeah, it's a power of suggestion. Like the focus on hadith, the focus on monotheism. I think monotheism is the most important thing, but like generally this sort of, when you look at the earlier branches of Islam, you see that they were extreme themselves. The Ibadis were extreme, the Karmatians were extreme, and I think that that tells us that early Islam did have a very, very extreme sense to it. There was this idea that you must live by Allah's laws, and you must not even try to like logic your way out of things. If God says something, you got to do it.
And you like that, yeah?
Yes, I do believe it.
Okay, so then, dude, the problem is I really need to go to the toilet. But you've just pulled me in with this conversation. Do you think it would be wild for me to come back in like 60 seconds?
I actually do have to get water as well, so we can both meet in 60 seconds.
Okay, perfect. Because I was ready to call quits on this live stream, but this topic is kind of lit. So just everyone stay here for 60 seconds. That's what we're going to do.
I was going to check up on my cat because I feel like she might be stuck somewhere because she is stupid.
Okay, 60-second, guys. I'll be back.
All right, just give me 60 seconds as well. I guess I'm going to get some water. Ow. Meanwhile, if you guys like the poster that you can see behind Tariq, you should definitely check it out at almuqaddima.com. I really need to sell stuff. I should plug stuff more often. Is Grand Theft Auto halal or haram? The crime, Grand Theft Auto, is definitely haram. As far as the game goes, if you can play tennis in the game, you can just roam around the city. If you pick up prostitutes and then kill them, then that's definitely haram. I think the real question is pirating Grand Theft Auto halal or haram? By the way, I am emulating PlayStation 3 games, and I'm currently playing Infamous 2, and it's really cool. Okay, golf money coming in. I really wish they would give me money, but they would also want me to do some propaganda for them, which I'm not a big fan of. Why do you pronounce Al-Andalus with an ayn at the beginning? That is just a quirk of the way that I speak. It's not as if it's a thing about separating the al from the Andalus. So it's Al-Andalus. So it just, the space makes it sound like I'm saying Al-Andalus. Otherwise, it sounds like Al-Andalus, which is accurate, but it's just the way I speak. It's just it's an accent thing, kind of. It's not really. I'm not under any kind of misconception about how it's pronounced. It's just that in the flow of the talking, the flow of speech, I do make that mistake. I make the same mistake with 13 as well.
Okay, can we go back to what we were discussing?
Yes, Salafism. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, but there's still things that I'm a little confused by. So let's start off with the idea of mantiq, logic, kalam.
Yeah.
So what kind of a role do you think that plays or should play in determining how a Muslim operates? Why are you smiling?
I'm smiling because I don't want to. I'm trying to think of the word of the way that it should be. Not as much as the Hanafis do. I think we try to logic out of it. The thing is, logic is better for society, for sure.
Hmm.
Logic leads us to
Better for
reinterpret
society from a material point of view, or what does that mean?
from a material point of view, from a legal point of view, you know? Um, like, we look at something and we say, oh, Allah prohibits that.
Hmm.
And then we need help with that. So how do we do that? So we logic our ways. Um, we say, well, look at the logic behind this thing. That's what God, why did God prohibit this? And we come up with an explanation based on our human logic. And we say,
Right.
and not even human logic, like subjective logic, right? Your logic might be different than mine. And then we try to justify it based on that. And we're like, oh, okay, this is why God wanted us to do this. So we can change it based on my logic, right? That is something that I think on principle I am not in favor of, but I do believe that it is worse for society.
Okay, but the problem, to be fair, this isn't in relation to what you just said, but anytime Muslims or even non-Muslims are not big fans of the utility of logic, I'm always a little confused by that, because obviously the most important article of being a Muslim, and I assume every other religion, is faith, right? Just this belief that there is a higher power beyond you. I like to think sequentially, and I would assume I'd like to think that that's number one. But then there's ordinary life, there's day-to-day life. And in daily life, you can't just give me, say for example in Christianity that you got the 10 commandments. You can't just give me 10 commandments and go, oh, go live your life with this. I need to go off, break down the 10 commandments, understand the philosophy behind it, understand why it's a principle, and then use that to navigate my way through life when random occurrences happen that don't straight away fall into one of the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And that bridge can only be gapped by logic. So what do you say to what I just said?
I do understand that, but here's the thing. You're right that it can only be met through logic. But again, logic is also subjective. The way that we think about things is definitely subjective. There is a lot of our opinion based on that. And also,
what's the problem with that? You said that the second time. That was the second time you just said it, and you're making it out like it's a negative thing, but I don't see why. Why is that a negative thing?
why do you believe
subjectivity?
Why do you believe in God? What is faith? Faith is not logical, is it?
Nah, that depends. You can make very good arguments for both of them.
Exactly. It's a subjective matter.
Okay.
Right? When you believe in God, you believe that God created this world, right? And that he gave us a certain amount of laws, right? And then we are using our human logic to reinterpret those laws and to speak on God's behalf and say, oh, well, I think that when God said this, what he really meant was this, right? That's better for society. I'm not saying that that's not good for society. But from a
which I wouldn't agree with necessarily,
from the perspective of faith, when you're believing, when you're conceding that there's this great power out there that has created the universe, that has done all these things, then how can you are basically nothing in front of God. How are you taking your human logic onto God's commandments? And you are saying that this is what it means. I think this is what God meant. There was this one thing that I read once. It was kind of derogatory. It's supposed to be derogatory, but it was that a liberal Muslim believes that God is powerful enough to create the entire universe, but he is not. The word was smart. I think that's blasphemous, but he is not wise enough to create the laws that govern us. And then we have to go in and we have to change those laws. Like the Quran, if it says something, right, then we have to believe it as it is. But then we go in and we try to change that to fit our modern society. When it comes to Islam, again, I'm trying not only not to be cancelled, but also not to give ammunition to Islamophobes.
Mm-hmm.
But when I study the early history of Islam, what I see is a religion that is very much insular,
Mm-hmm.
that is very much based on creation of independent states.
Mm-hmm.
The point of Islam, of early Islam, if you read the earliest of the Quran, there are two things. There's one God, and that the world is about to end.
Mm-hmm.
Early Islam seems to have had a lot of emphasis on the hijrah, on migration. So much so that early Muslims were actually called muhajirun. And it's not just the muhajirun who moved from Mecca to Medina, but it seems the entire community was called muhajirun by the Greeks. And that's because the idea was that the world is about to end and the world is doomed. So, as Muslims, you must create your own community where God's law rules.
Mm.
So that means that early Islam was insular and it is not compatible with the rest of the world. But that is what Islam, at least that kind of Islam, was. It is a very extreme belief system
Mm-hmm.
that is very insular and that is very much based on faith and nothing else.
Dude, why didn't you start saying this 2 hours ago? I feel like we just wasted 2 hours talking about, I don't even remember about what. This is so much more interesting. Hold on. Every sentence that comes out of your mouth, I want to unpackage and ask 10 questions about. Let's go with, it's not compatible with the world. You said early Islam is insular, was insular, so it's not compatible with the world. Are you talking about that world, 600 AD world, or 2026 world?
630s. Like today,
The rest
Islam
of the world wasn't. The rest of the world wasn't insular back then.
No, I mean Rome wasn't insular. Rome was expanding. People were living together, but I'm saying that Islam early
Muslims were expanding. Okay, so then this is my second question: is how was early Islam insular? I know you've broken down those two main things for me: end of the world and whatever, creation of independent states. But they were expanding. The Ummah was expanding.
Where did the early Muslims live? When they expanded, they did not live
Syria,
in
Iraq, Saudi
cities. In terms of cities, Muslims did not live in Jerusalem. Muslims did not live in Damascus. They actually lived in Damascus, but their own quarter. Yeah. They created new cities in Kufa, in Basra, in Fustat, Kairouan. Like all the major powers of the Muslims were very much independent new cities that the Muslims founded. They did not.
Okay, fair enough. But which time period are you talking about? Like when do you take
the conquest? 630s.
Oh, just the okay, yeah.
630s. What happens?
I thought you were taking it into the Umayyad and the Abbasid.
No. The Islamic Empire expands, but early Muslims live separately from Christians. They do not talk to Christians. Christians up until 700 have no idea who these people are. We get writings from early Christians who say, oh, these are Jews, oh, these are Christians, oh, this is just a heresy of Christianity, oh, these are X, Y, and Z group. They have no idea who these Muslims are because Muslims aren't talking to them. Muslims aren't dealing with them. Muslims are living separately because of how afraid they are of interacting with these doomed people. That's what I'm saying.
But didn't they rule them? Like even if they did establish new... Sorry?
They didn't rule them. They taxed them. They just got taxes from them. And even the taxes were collected by locals.
Okay, but what do you mean they didn't rule them? What about the establishment of law and order, policing them, making sure there was regulation?
They didn't do any of that. There is no evidence of any of that. Even Muawiyah did not do any of that. Up until Abdul Malik, Muslims did not do any of that. Muawiyah was the first man to establish some sort of authority because he was very friendly with the Christians. But before that, there is no evidence that the Muslims ever really interacted with Christians. There are no evidence of any Christians having a debate with Muslims, or even any Christian bureaucrat who comes to the courts of like these Muslim generals and kings and has any kind of logical discussion with them. It's always about power. It's always about imperial negotiations. It's never about living with them as people. That's what I'm saying. That early Islam
I
was
would.
very popular, and so much so. Let me give you an example. And again,
Go on.
this is extreme. I'm not saying that I believe in their methods. I'm just saying that I do see somewhat of the merit of their point. In 930, or was it 937 or 939, the Karmatians attack the Kaaba and they kill a lot of people. And they take the holy stone, the Hajar Aswad, and they take it back to back home. And then they do a lot of bad things with it, but that's a different, separate conversation. The Kharijites, early on, they go into Ali's camp, and then they kill Ali, and they also want to kill Muawiyah. So this is a very extreme interpretation of Islam. We have these early groups of Muslims that are breakaways from Muslim, but they're very extreme, and they're extreme in the same way. What I mean by that is that the Karmatians saw that the Kaaba was being worshipped, not Allah. And they attacked the Kaaba and they killed a lot of people. But their point that the Kaaba was being worshipped was, to some extent, a deeply Islamic idea. That people are now worshipping the shrine and the stone and not God himself. And that's something that I think is originally Islamic. This sort of extreme separation and this extreme idea that everybody but we is doomed, I think is what original Islam was like. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you made very strong statements, but I'm still not convinced on the the insular nature of early Islamic society. I wish I was a little bit more read up on it, so I could kind of navigate this part of the conversation a little better. But what about, I think this guy mentioned it earlier, John Operandi or whatever, merchants. Early Muslim merchants, pre-Muslim merchants from the Levant Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did the same thing with his uncle, going from the Levant to the Hijaz and vice versa.
Yeah.
They would have had plenty of contact.
That was before he became prophet. And again, that contact does not imply a kind of communal relationship with them. That's just business dealings. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean by insular is that once Islam comes around, Islam has this idea that everybody but us is doomed and we need to make our separate societies. And that is something that very much is in play when Islam gains power. Muslims make their own separate cities. They don't talk to Christians. They don't live with Christians. They live separately from them in these towns that are very deeply Islamic at that time. Kufa, for example, is mainly Islamic. It is a garrison town that is used to collect taxes to project power in Iraq, but Iraq otherwise is running as it was before. Syria, Egypt, all these places are running as they are before because the Muslims simply don't want to interact with them, simply don't want to live with them. They want to live separately because they think they're doomed. Coming back to this contradicts a lot of recent scholarship on Islam's origins. Here's the thing. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is 100% truth. I'm not saying that this is the only truth. What I'm saying is that this is what the idea of early Islam that convinces me that I think is the most, to me it seems to be the most accurate version of this. I have talked about this in a video as well. I have a book behind me called Muhammad and the Believers and the Origins of Islam. This book, I believe in pretty much maybe 90% of the stuff that's in this book. This is a revisionist text, but this convinces me to, what I'm saying is that this is what I believe in. This pretty much like is the version of Islamic history, early Islamic history that I think is the most plausible. And yeah, it's not like there are debates. There are of course debates. There are a lot of people arguing all kinds of things, but that's what I'm saying. That this is what I think is the most not logical, but makes sense based on all the evidence that I'm seeing. I might be wrong. I'm not saying I'm not. I think in terms of the insular thing, I think that is hard to debate when you look at everything, when you look at especially non-Christian sources, because Robert Hoyland has a book called Seeing Islam as Others Saw It. It has sources from non-Muslims that talk about Islam, and they really have no idea who these people are. And that, to me, that all these things together, they make me think that Islam was very, very insular at the time and very, very extreme at the time. And then eventually, because of Christianity, because of the fact that Muslims had to deal with Christians, Muslim kings had to deal with Christians, I think it made
As-
Islam open.
That makes sense. But as interesting as the insular argument is, I want to tie it back to the original point. Salafism, Wahhabism, whatever. How do you speaking of reconciliation, how do you reconcile that with your love for the dude with a nice big beard who came up with communism?
And those are two different things. Like
How?
Wahhabism doesn't really talk about capitalism, doesn't let capitalism run amok. And of course, Marx.
Well, communism does say religion is the opium of the masses.
Yeah,
And
well, actually, that quote is taken out of context. It does not exactly mean that that religion is not good, I think.
no.
But okay, yeah, but that is a part that I don't believe in, that I don't agree with about Marxism. That I think religion is important. Allama Muhammad Iqbal had this thing in his Armaghan Hijaz. He says, it's a very beautiful poem, actually. It's in Farsi, where he talks about that.
Recite it. Do you remember it?
I don't remember it, and my Farsi accent is pretty bad. People will make fun of that. But okay, what it goes is that Sahib Sarmayaz Nasle Khalil, Yaniya Paigambar be Jibrail. And then he goes on to talk about that. He says that I agree with everything Marx says, but Marx's point is Marxism is about what he calls masawat-e-shiqam, or equality of the belly, and not about the equality of the spirit. Iqbal says that without spirit, you cannot have the kind of revolution that Marx wants, and that's something that I do believe in. I do agree with. So in terms of religion, like I do agree. I do think that Marxism is wrong on that. But again, I don't believe in like everything Marxism preaches. Marx is not my prophet or anything.
No, but okay, fair enough. But I'm saying in general, communism as an ideology, I think it's fair to say that it's not very friendly to religions.
How is that? Well, no, okay. Communism as it is. But like if we look at like economic theory of communism, I would say that's very much something that is in line with Islam.
Well, I'm not well versed enough on Islamic law on economics and things like that, but I would assume / like to think, without being blasphemous, that Islam gives a little bit more freedom and agency, not freedom, agency in economic matters to individuals than communism would afford it. No?
I mean, I think that's a matter of interpretation. Like if we look at the Prophet's seerah,
yeah,
we look at this community where the Prophet and the community is very much responsible for the poor. There are businessmen, there are merchants, and Marxism doesn't say we have to eliminate merchants either. But there's things like, for example, Islam says that there's only a certain amount of profit that you can extract from your trade. If you buy something and you're selling it to someone else, there's only a certain amount of margin that you can build from that. That is something that is very anti-capitalist, right? And also, like, we have these things about the Prophet telling people that you are responsible for what your brother eats. If your brother starves, if your neighbor starves, that is, you are responsible for that. If you can help him, you have to help him. And Islam is very communal. Like I'm talking about, even insular nature of Islam. It's very much communal in that we need to help each other. We need to be with each other, and we need to. It's not an individual. I mean, individual things are there. Like, yeah, okay, you can make an argument that Islam allows trade, and I think it does, but Marxism does too. Marxism doesn't say you cannot make profit from things, but it says, but what the thing is that you need to be reasonable in your profit. You need to stop chasing greed, I think.
What about, okay, I was going to bring this up anyway, but it's Nouri mentioned property rights. I know from my limited knowledge of Islamic economic law that's a big deal in Islam. but it's obviously very different in communism. So how would you reconcile the two?
That's something that I think clashes very much. But even in Marxism, it's not like I cannot own a house, right? It's not that private property doesn't exist under Marxism. The idea is mainly about land that is for production, land that is economic, and that should belong to everyone. And
yeah, but then those two things could there could be a clash between those two things, no?
I agree that definitely is something that is possible. A clash between the two, because Islam does give you, to a certain right, the right to collect rent, and that is something that Marxism is very much against. So yeah, there's clash between the two, and I can pick and choose, but yeah, I think Marxism, like, mostly is in line with Islamic values. And Marx himself would agree with that. Marx wrote about the Muslims of Algiers, and he talked about the solidarity that the Muslims had with each other. And he talked about solidarity, but he also said that Muslims would go to rack and ruin without a fight because the Muslims don't have a fighting spirit anymore. That's a different thing. But yeah.
I mean, to me, it seems like they are not compatible.
I think they're mostly compatible. There are certain things that you can pick and choose, but
no, but Marxism, unless I've misunderstood Marxism from, like, at its roots level, it's a very, not anti-religion, but there isn't much space there for spirituality, you know. And to be fair, you could push back and say, oh, there shouldn't be, because it's a economic or a political ideology. What's religion got to do with it? But from my limited understanding of Marxism, it seems to position the state as the highest authority, similar to nationalism, funnily enough, the state as the highest authority in a country.
Doesn't Islam also do that?
No, not the highest.
Does the Khalifa not have ultimate power? I mean, God is the highest for sure.
Yeah, no, but that's clearly mentioned though, and that matters. That God is the ultimate authority.
But it is through God that a human being gets the right to rule, an imam, and an imam is the ultimate authority on everything.
So who's the imam? You're saying the Khalif is the imam?
Well, that's a debate based on, you know, if you ask the Shias, then there's a different thing. If I ask the Sunnis, there's a different thing.
Let's stick to the Sunni way of thinking about it. So you're referring, the imam, as you mentioned, I'm assuming is in reference to the Khalif, right? The leader of the Ummah? Or no?
On principle, as a Marxist, I wouldn't like to agree with that, but I think that's what Islam puts forward. Yes.
Does it though?
Yeah, I think so.
No, but it's not, because this is one thing that there has to be a distinction between, say, medieval European practices where some medieval kings and queens are seen as God's lieutenants on earth. With the Khalif, my understanding was that it's not the same thing. It's like
Khalifa literally means deputy. You are the deputy.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there's been multiple references to all of humanity as Khalifa, as like, you are all my deputies in this world as well. So like there's been different usages of that word. But a Khalif, in terms of being a leader of an ummah, yeah, you occupy a very important political position, which kind of goes into the spiritual territory a little bit. But my understanding of a Khalif is not that you are God's representative on earth. Because that would denote, I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that, because I wouldn't imagine a Wahhabi talking like that, because that would denote like an element of spiritual reverence to that Khalif. Do you see what I'm saying? Like just a random Khalif, not random, but like Al-Muqtadir, yeah, a bit of a sideman, Abbas al-Khalif. He has spiritual components to his authority, like he's God's, like like he's moving into prophethood territory? Because
That's
the way you're talking about,
that's the
sorry,
Shia
what?
belief, though. That's what the Shias believe about the Imam.
Okay, and with all due respect to the Shias, I completely disagree with you, and we're going to completely ignore the Shias for a second. We're talking about this from a Sunni, Orthodox, Wahhabi type of outlook.
There's a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari where the Prophet says that after me there won't be any more prophets. After me there will be caliphs. So there's a very clear divide between a prophet who is in connection with God, and a caliph. A caliph, in that sense, gets a secular authority from the prophet, being a successor to the prophet. It's a secular authority. It's not a spiritual authority.
Wait, say the last part again. Sorry, I was just reading a comment. That sounded interesting. Say
It's
the last
a
part again.
secular authority. Okay, so our original thesis was that communism puts the state at the top of everything. Everything is the state's responsibility. And I'm saying that Islam also does that, where the caliph is not the spiritual authority, but he's the secular authority, and it is his responsibility to provide for everybody, to keep everybody safe and stuff like that.
Okay, that's all fair, but that doesn't make it the ultimate authority, because in Islam you have to pray 5 times a day. You have to do a whole bunch of other stuff. And under those conditions, it is made abundantly clear that there is only one ultimate authority, and it is not an earthly force. It is a supernatural, whatever, extraordinary force.
In practice, though, what does the law of God mean?
In practice, what does the law of God mean? What does that question mean? Like, give me some more context.
When I say I want to implement the law of God, right? What does that mean? Did God actually hand me 13 volumes of laws? He did. So when the law of God will rule, what basically it means is that the people who interpret the laws of God will rule. Right?
No. That's a very Catholic outlook. That's a very like medieval Christian centralized authority. There's a pope, and he is the whatever, the emissary of God, and he interprets. That's not what Islam is like. Islam empowers the individual follower. Islam allows individual Muslims the agency to be able to act. They have to use their subjectiveness to kind of figure out what just things and what unjust things are happening. But I'm
talking about laws, like in practice. When, of course, Catholicism has the Pope, who's the vicar of Christ, who's a representative of Christ on earth. I'm not talking about that. If from a Sunni framework, you have, I want to implement the law of God in Pakistan, right? What does that mean in practice? We are saying that God is the ultimate authority, and so God's law will be the ultimate authority in this country. What does that mean in practice? What it means in practice is that I'm going to take the law of God, whatever the law of God is, and I'm going to interpret it, and I'm going to implement it. So is it really God's law, or is it really my law?
The interpretation is your law, but like the laws itself, unless the interpretation has just flipped the original law that was given through wahi, divine revelation, on its head, then it's going to kind of be more or less correct, right? Unless the interpretation is wildly inaccurate.
In practice, doesn't that make me the ultimate authority, though?
I can see why you'd say that, but I think you're stretching the subjectivity argument a little bit.
I am the caliph. When somebody comes to me and somebody brings a case to me, and I am saying this is the law of God, then technically that is my law. It's not God's law. So in terms of communism and Islam, I think God is going to appear here and tell me what to do. There is I am the ultimate authority, I think.
I know, but see, I see where you're coming from this, but I feel like you're being a little bit lazy in that you're skipping a couple of steps just to tie your point together because it conveniently kind of makes sense. If I am following the rules established by the Quran to me in my country, in my polity, fair enough. I get your point about how interpretation and subjectivity can make it seem as if, oh yeah, it's kind of technically my law, but I'm pretty sure in some regards, and maybe this is where I'm going to come across as more of a Wahhabi than you, I'm pretty sure that kind of comes under like blasphemy a little bit. For you to say that that's kind of like it's my laws. No, these laws, forget about the interpretation of it for a second. These laws were revealed, as you and I believe, by divine revelation. So making it out like they are just because of the human interpretation of it, as if it's like man-made, I don't think that's accurate.
Man-made is, there are certain laws that are definitely man-made, where we take something, there's an issue that God has said nothing on, right? That issue comes to my court, and now I have to answer that. What I do is I use my logic and I say, okay, God, maybe God meant this. I go with that. So did God really create that law, or did I create that law? And we're talking about, the thing is, we are discussing two things here. We're talking about the ideology of Islam and the practicality of communism, right? What I'm saying is that in practice, Islam and communism are not that far apart. They are very much reconcilable. And I'm not saying 100% that everything in communism aligns to, but the spirit of both align each other in terms of economy. Like, because Islam very much looks at
no, but you've lowered the bar significantly. Yeah, the spirit of, maybe not communism, but the spirit. One of the reasons I don't like using the word socialist is because, from what I know about Islam, you don't need socialism if you're a Muslim, at least, if whatever believing in a higher power isn't an issue for you and whatnot, because socialism is already incorporated into Islam. I'm thinking communism is a slightly different beast unto socialism, but yeah, the spirit of it, I can see that.
That's what I'm saying. That the two things are like, Islam already has a lot of. Okay, this is gonna sound blasphemous. Somebody once said to me that all religions have certain elements of socialism. God created all these religions and then decided to come by himself. The implication being that Marx is God.
Karl Marx is God, right?
Yeah. And so like I do.
Not only is that a little bit blasphemous, I think that's a whole lot of bit blasphemous. But more important than blasphemous, it's another word with B that you should be familiar with. That is total bakwas. And the word in English is the same. That's BS, bullshit. But yeah, anyway.
What I'm saying is that Islam is much more communal than it is capitalist. Like the kind of world that we live in, the individualistic world that we live in.
Yeah.
Where you can make as much profit, and we think the market is going to adjust the things. It's not. It's definitely not that.
Yeah, but I would say one issue with these kind of conversations is that you got to remember, communism, capitalism, these things, these are more modern.
Yes.
Like they exist within a certain environment, a certain time frame.
An interesting thing I'd like to add. There was this guy in Iran called Mazdak. He has very much communal ideas that very much, when you read the history of communalism, Mazdak is usually where it begins. A lot of Mazdak's ideas remained in Iran, and when Islam came about and lost its insularity, a lot of these things entered Islam. So Islam itself does have some things that very much come from a communalism kind of base. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. The point being that that it's not difficult to reconcile communism and Islam. And when I talk about Islam in the way that what it originally was, in this extreme sense, I think that's what Islam was supposed to be. And I'm not saying that all these other sorts of Islam are wrong. I'm saying that that's what I believe. And I might be wrong, maybe. And one thing one thing that communism has taught me, I think, or these left-leaning ideas in general have taught me is that people do things that they need to do to get by. And so if somebody does not believe in religion in the same way that I do, um, I should not just go around and say, "Oh, you deserve to be killed because you believe this thing. You don't believe what I believe." So
Mm.
because everybody has their own problems, everybody has their own ways of living. So like more empathetic way of looking at things. Even though I sometimes look at someone and I'm like, yeah, this guy is definitely kafir, but I still think, do what you need to do to get by. I don't really care.
Mm. Yeah, just having like a realistic outlook on life and understanding that life is not as simple as it may seem, and that sometimes people
Yeah.
need to do what they need to do. But I'm still, I don't know. I mean, from the comments, it seems like I've dropped the ball. Apparently, you've admitted your Wahhabi inclinations a long time ago, but I'm still no. I don't want to say convinced because that sounds undermining, but I still don't fully understand it. How you could think of yourself as a Wahhabi? Do you? I have to be careful how I ask this because obviously I'm quite a private person myself. But
I mean,
like, do you apply Wahhabi principles to your daily life, if that makes sense?
yes, I try
You
to.
do, yeah?
I try to. Yes, I pray by Wahhabi teachings.
Mm.
In terms of eating and stuff. Like every time somebody asks me about an issue within Islam, and I'm sort
Mm.
of within my circle, I am considered an expert. So everybody usually asks me, which is terrible, by the way. I always tell them that I'm not an expert.
Mm.
So I always tend to give them the most Wahhabi answer that there is. And I always tell them what you're doing is wrong according to and I'm also doing this thing and it's wrong.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what Islam says. Islam tells me not to clip my beard at all. I do that. Islam tells me not to listen to music. I make music. Um, and all these things I definitely do. Like from what I believe, I do think that I'm doing wrong, and may Allah forgive me.
Mm.
But that's what I believe that I
But doesn't that just make you a Muslim, though? I'm still
definitely,
kind of
definitely.
okay.
Doesn't every Muslim have like, I mean, not just Muslim, like all Christians do the same thing.
Right. The reason I should maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but the reason I'm so interested in this conversation is I have actually been described, not that much, but some people have described me in my personal life as a Salafi. And the first time they did that, I was like, "Whoa, let's chill out. Like, what do you mean? How can I be a Salafi? Blah blah blah, all of that." And then when they broke it down to me, I was like, "Wait, it just sounds like you're describing a Muslim." And the way it was described to me as Salafi, I don't know if I think a Wahhabi is slightly different, but a Salafi is somebody who just tries to
I
follow Islam in the same way that the first generation or two, the Salaf, did. Which,
I
if that's the case, that does make a lot of sense to me. I'm not gonna lie.
I usually like it's kind of a joke, but I usually ask people, if you want to know if you're Salafi, you have to answer two questions.
Mm.
What do you think of Shia theology, and what do you think of Sufism?
Mm.
And I think like these two questions really tell you if you're Salafi or not, especially the Sufism one. Because yeah, the kind of Sufism that we practice in, I don't know how it is in Afghanistan, but at least in
Mm.
Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, like South Asia, Indonesia as
Mm.
well, that is very much against Islam, against the very fibers
Mm.
of Islam. I think that is very much based in polytheism,
Mm.
and yeah, that I think is very. I recently met someone, and that okay, we'll talk about this in private, but I met someone and we were talking about Sufism, and they said that their father is low key a Wahhabi, and I was like, why?
Mm.
Well, because my father doesn't like Persian literature or Sufi music and all these things. I was like, yeah, that's a Wahhabi for sure. Like
Oh,
it's either Wahhabi or Deobandi. Like it's one of those, but it's very much like in that direction.
interesting. Okay, so then what do you think of takfir? Because a big, and I see it in the comments too, a big association between Salafism, Wahhabism, is their desire, their love for takfir. Or
Takfir.
is it too sensitive of a question?
takfir of the Salafis to Shias. I consider it bid'ah, not kufr. The Shias, I think, are the least monotheistic. I like Shias. I always say that theologically, I have the most disagreements with Shias and Catholics, but they're also two of my favorite people. I like them a lot more than fellow Sunnis or Protestants, even though they're closer to my theology. I don't like to go around telling people that they're kafir. I've only ever called one person kafir.
Are you being serious? I've never called somebody a kafir, and I don't think I ever will. Well, I don't know, but maybe.
I've only ever called one.
What did this person do?
Well, people have to go through my Twitter to find that answer. But yeah, in terms of takfir, I think that's not right, because you really don't know what God thinks of you. So if somebody calls themselves Muslim, I consider them to be Muslim. Maybe they and I are not on the same Islam, but as far as the shirk go, that is a label that I'm much more happy to apply to people. Mushrik is a much more because why? Because I think of monotheism as a very high bar, and I think this is controversial. I've said this before. I think maybe 90% of Muslims don't clear monotheism.
Why do you say these things as we're about to reach a new hour mark?
Wow.
It's been almost 3 hours. What did you say that again?
I said maybe 90% of Muslims don't clear monotheism.
Okay, can you do me a favor? Can you do something about this guy that's spamming the chat, please? Sufism is poison that destroys.
Put user in timeout. Okay.
Yeah, get rid of him. They don't. 90% of Muslimanan don't clear the monotheism bar, meaning they are not monotheistic. They have non-monotheistic views.
What I consider monotheism, what Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab considers monotheism, what I see as monotheism within the Quran and within early Islam, I think Muslims don't clear that.
But why? This is very interesting. I've never seen this side to you.
Okay, so what do we consider monotheism? When we talk about monotheism, we look at two people groups. We look at the Hindus, they're not monotheistic in any way, right? They are polytheistic. They believe in multiple gods. And then we can compare Are you still there? Your video seems to be stuck. Dude, this live stream is definitely gonna get me canceled. Where's my internet stuck? Chat, can you hear me? Oh, I always wanted to say that. Chat.
What's up? All right.
Were you gone or was I gone?
I think we were both gone.
It's him. Oh, apparently it's you.
Me?
Yeah, you were gone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You were saying, what were you saying? Monotheism.
Monotheism. Okay, so when we talk about monotheism, we compare ourselves to two people groups. We compare ourselves to Hindus, who are very much not monotheistic, they're polytheistic. And we compare ourselves to Christians. Now, depending on what Christians you're talking to, they usually believe that God had a son, and that son was either the same as God or not the same as God, whatever, but the God had a son, right? That's what Christians believe. Most Christians believe. Now, that is somehow also considered monotheistic, even though if Jesus had sons, then you would have, all these gods, little gods running around, and you'd have like Zeus and Poseidon and all that thing again. Louis is saying that several schools are monotheistic. Yeah, but like generally speaking, they're polytheistic. Like,
by the way, this is something very interesting. Somebody recently told me that some Hindus believe that all Hindu gods are fragments of the ultimate
avatars.
Brahman. Yeah, avatars. Which sounds, well, even then that doesn't fully sound monotheistic.
Even that itself is, I think, like people think of monotheism as a binary. Either you're monotheistic or you're not monotheistic, but monotheism is very much a spectrum, like sexuality. I'm sorry. So, okay. that's a very reductive idea of what Christians believe. I know I'm generalizing here, so let's stay with me. When we look at these two people groups, and we think of ourselves as Muslims, think of ourselves as, because we don't believe in multiple gods and we don't believe that God had a son, we think that the bar for Tawheed is very low, but it's actually very high. What Tawheed is, that is, you don't believe in the divinity of anything other than God. The Kaaba is not divine. The sacred stone is not divine.
Okay.
Mosque of
I
the
see where
Prophet.
you're going with this.
But I think people ultimately end up believing in other sorts of things. I've seen this within my family as well. There are people and like people who when a moment of tragedy strikes, like some people, they, those prayer beads, tasbih.
Tasbih, yeah.
Some people want their own tasbih. Or bring me my own tasbih. I want to do tasbih. There's something bad going on. Bring me my own tasbih. That puts some sort of divine power within the tasbih rather than God. It is not a conduit to God. It is some fragment of God himself. Then you have photos of not photos, but like you have people directly praying to the Prophet. You have people directly praying to Ali. You have people directly praying to the Prophet's family, and like all these things. I think that they ultimately end up creating a very, very fragmentary situation. Then you have people like Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi's writings, if you read them, there are a lot of problems. That man basically considered himself a prophet. And if you go by anything that he says, I feel like you are veering off of like true monotheism.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying, that monotheism is a very high bar to clear. What it means is that there is nothing in the world that is divine at all other than God himself.
Okay, that makes more sense. But one thing I would say, and this doesn't anywhere nearly undermine your point completely, but I would say that you're probably talking very naturally from your own personal bias a little bit. And what I mean by that is I've definitely noticed with Pakistanis and South Asians as a whole, there is a lot more, let's say, delegating divinity to things outside of Allah.
Same is true for Turkey. Same is true for Turkey. Same is true for Morocco. Morocco especially. Turkey is very much Sufi based. Like Turkey has a lot of Sufis.
It is quite,
and you
I wonder what the Arab countries are like.
At least on paper, I haven't really been to Arab countries that much. At least on paper, they seem more monotheistic because they're Wahhabis, so they're against like shrines and stuff like that. But I think in practice they can also be a little bit more. Maybe I'm not too sure about that. But like Turkey, for example, I saw a lot of that eye logo kind of thing that they use to ward off evil eye.
Yeah.
That is something that's definitely outside of Islam.
Yeah, 100%.
In Central Asia, some people have tattoos that are meant to ward off evil eye. Again, the realm of Islam. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's in Afghanistan we do this thing where when people are leaving on long journeys or far journeys, you pour like water behind them as they're leaving or something, which definitely seems a little bit on the shirky side to me.
Cat's here.
Well,
then my cat's here.
Well, bring it up, man. Introduce it to everybody. Come on.
I cannot touch her. She will kill me.
Why?
Because she's very anxious, so she doesn't like to be touched. Boko. If anybody wants to see her, you should go on my Instagram. I have photos of her there. She is very locked to the pigeons right now. So what we're talking about, sorry, to play the devil's advocate isn't the same as praying to. It is more asking the prophet or the righteous person. See, that's also a problem. Why do you need someone to intercede to Allah?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely more on your side here than whoever asked the question. Because you see, with these kind of things, I'm a big fan of the slippery slope. It's not even a fallacy, whatever. I do believe that slippery slopes are something that human beings just naturally have a tendency to fall into, and that definitely sounds like something it could develop into something more shirky and bid'ah than what it was originally intended to be.
Yeah. What about the Quran? Please speak on the divinity of it. The Quran is just the words, and that's it. The words are not divine either. They're just a message that God sent to us through Prophet Muhammad, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no divinity in there. There's nothing like that in there. The book itself, the paper and cardboard book, has no divinity in it. It's only the message that we get from the words that has something. Nothing else.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean,
what do you mean? Sorry.
No, it's fine. Go on.
Morocco, especially. I've talked to some people, some Moroccans, and it seems that there's a lot of Sufism in Morocco that seems to be a little bit too, especially within the Amazigh community, that seems to be a bit tribalistic. And I really don't want to generalize too much, especially modern people. I don't really like to generalize modern people, but that's something that it seems to me. That's why I said especially Morocco. I didn't mean especially Morocco in that way. I just meant that from what I've heard. How can the creator be different from his creation? That is a much more spiritual question.
How can the creator be different
from his creation? Like, what that implies is that because God created us, we are all partly God. We all have an essence of God within us.
Right.
That creates different thing. I think that's not the same as saying. That's not the same as saying that Jesus is partly God, because then Jesus is the only one who's partly God. But when we say that everybody on earth is partly God, I think that dilutes that a little bit.
Yeah. How can the creator be different from his creation? Well, it doesn't. Yeah. You just
I can disown some of his creation. I disown some of my videos. So it could be that. Okay. Dude, I wish I could show you. Well, actually, I can, because I got a laptop here. So let me see if she'll come up. See if you guys can see her. Can you guys see her? Okay. Can you see her?
Yeah, a little bit. What did you just call her?
Well, her name's Poco, but I call her all kinds of things because she doesn't. It's not like she listens anyhow. So, see, she does not care.
Are you good with children, Siawish?
I am. I have no idea.
Okay. Because I'll tell you something that pisses me off. Yeah, when I see people and they're clearly very good with animals, like pets and just animals in general, but then they're terrible and awkward around babies. That doesn't make no sense.
Babies are much more. Babies are different than, like, this cat, for example. I know she's dumb, so I'm not gonna be angry at her or anything. Babies are just. I don't have a
Babies
problem
are quite dumb too.
children. I have a problem with, like, teenage children. When they get all hormonal and they turn into real dicks. That's when I hate kids. I think at that age we should put. Okay, I'm not gonna get more canceled. Somebody was saying something that was an interesting question. Do you want to end, or what do you want to do?
I want to end. Yes.
Actually, yeah, it's 1 p.m. 1:30 here. I had to do things. Was pretty uncommon, especially for Sunnis. It is uncommon today, yes, but it was a very important question in the past. Do you know about this?
I don't know if I'm reaching the bandwidth for my attention for this live stream, but this question doesn't make, or this statement doesn't make any sense to me. I thought the Quran being created and not co-eternal was pretty uncommon. What's he saying? Is this a double negative or something?
No, there's that debate that there used to be a very important debate that the Quran is was the Quran created at the time that it was revealed, or has it
Mm.
always existed? The
Oh,
implications of that were that if the Quran was created at the time that it was revealed, then that means that it can be reinterpreted. But if it's always been co-eternal, then that means that it's
like the
valid.
Mutazilites?
Yeah,
Mehmet?
Muslims, yeah,
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Um, that was the debate. I think the main implication of that was if the Quran is co-eternal, then that
Mm.
means that there is something that has also existed forever in addition to God, and that creates some complications.
But it can be co-eternal without it being on paper, though, right? Like if the message was always uh, known or stored somewhere, etc., but it just wasn't printed in a book form, that would
Yeah,
make it like,
the words it was never verbalized before. Like it's always been the rule of the universe, but then God at the time of revelation put them into words and then
Mhm.
revealed them. So that's actually what I believe as well.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense.
All right, we'll wrap it up. I feel like this conversation, if it gets a lot of views after the fact, I'm gonna get canceled probably because I feel like I did not address everything that I said. So
I just want to say something, Siawish. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really happy, even though this dragged on for about 90 minutes more than I wanted it to. I'm really happy I did this live stream because I didn't know those things about you. And honestly, it does, all jokes aside, make me look at you a little bit differently, and it's for the positive, by the way. So screw what the algorithm thinks. Um, I still don't fully understand how you reconcile communism and Wahhabism. But to be fair, I'd like to hold my hands up and say maybe I wasn't asking the right questions in order for me to figure that out. So maybe we can explore that in another conversation. But this was really cool. I had no idea.
the next time I'll try to find a book from the Islamic side, and I'll get Das
Mm.
Kapital, and then we can
Mm.
talk about it.
We'll do it, man. We'll do it. It was a
And
pleasure talking to
you
you.
should watch all of my videos. I watch all of your videos.
Dude, I've watched legit like 88% of your videos. Leave me alone. There's like one or two that I don't watch. Okay.
You probably haven't watched a single one of my videos in the past year.
Hold on. Let's go to your channel right now, and let me just show you how much bakwas that is.
From 2025, there's a video called The Lost Crusader Castle. That, and up until now, how many videos have you watched of mine?
Boy, you crazy as hell. All right, listen. Future of this channel, your update video. Your boy watched that. Yeah. The why is everyone named Muhammad? War criminal, the lies that led to Iraq. I watched your Topkapi Palace little travelogue, whatever. That was really cool. I have not watched, and I'm glad to say I'm going to put it on my watch later, The Rise and Fall of Islamic Sicily. You beat me to that, which I'm not very happy about. There's a bunch of them. What I have learned from studying Islamic history, it's not looking
Have you
good.
watched that?
Yeah.
How have you watched that and you don't know I'm Wahhabi? That was my coming out video.
Okay, maybe I watched like the first part of it or something. But
Wow.
wait, you watch my videos like from start to finish, yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, I feel kind of guilty now. Okay, cool.
I watch them because your videos are to be honest, I feel like there's not a lot of good content on YouTube anymore. Like all my recommendations are usually politics. So I try to like watch any history video that shows up on my profile. I watch it to not to watch the politics videos to train my
Dude,
algorithm.
I'm going to do this publicly. I should have probably done this privately. Can you help me with my latest video, please? Because I don't understand like how my thumbnail could be performing this bad. Like I've never had a thumbnail perform this bad. And it's got me in it. I took a specific tailored, customized photo to make it look all, I'm doing some weird googly eyes in the thumbnail, which I'm not even comfortable, but I'm trying to bend over backwards for the flipping algorithm or whatever, but it's not working. And I've done a couple of different iterations. Do you have any like ideas?
I would say just Can I mean, this might sound very pessimistic, but I think
Take myself off the thumbnail.
unless you're a beautiful woman, there's no point being on the thumbnail.
Okay, first of all, I'm not terrible to look at, but you're right. I'm not a beautiful woman.
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying you're bad to look at. I'm just saying that it usually works better for women, I feel like.
Yeah, that's definitely true. All right.
So yeah, maybe put someone else because I do think that thumbnails with faces on them do better.
Yeah, for sure.
And I put myself on videos that are very deeply personal. Other than that, I usually don't put myself on thumbnail. I've thought about that, but I feel like it's not.
I'm probably just gonna slap in Donald
Dude,
Trump.
this guy says you're pretty rough to look at. How dare you talk to Tariq like that, man? Come on.
Hey, is that Ego Jesus in your profile photo? He plays for Nottingham Forest, but I forgot what his name is. And that is such an obscure football player to have as your profile photo. He's not even that good. But anyway, pretty new to history and stuff. Love your content, bro. I'm gonna assume you meant that in reference to me. No problem. The love is reciprocated. If you're not subscribed to my channel, go check it out. Hikmah History. To be fair, Hikmah, I have never watched a video of yours. Then go away. How about that?
You should watch. Some of his videos are.
Oh, but then she said, "But I shall." No, don't go away. Come back. Okay,
yes.
guys.
Messi.
Oh my God, Messi. The fact that people even think there's a discussion is ridiculous. It's obviously Messi. And with that being said, guys, I have to go. It's a pleasure. See, I wish we should do this again. No 1 year layoff, etc. Take care, everybody. It was a pleasure. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you very much for joining, for the questions and the super chats and stuff. Thank you very much. And I shall see you in the next video, which is coming out soonish. I mean, it's an announcement of a poster, but yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much for joining. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Okay, we are ended now.